Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. If it's possible for me to ask the council members to turn on their video so we can make sure we've got our quorum, that would be great. Or if not, just unmute yourself and we'll be looking.
Alicia, this is Mike. I just heard from Joan. She's having trouble with the link. So I tried to send her another one to see if she can get on.
Great, thank you, Mike. Hi, Nathan. Good to see you this morning.
Okay, maybe I'll do it on my phone. Okay.
Wait, let me mute myself.
Hi, Haley. Good morning. Good to see you. We have Great. Do we have Saber yet? Coming in? No. All right. For the sake of our time in, I'll schedule. I am Alicia Harvey, Chair of the Tourism Advisory Council, and I will call the Governor's Tourism Advisory Council meeting for February 6, 2024 to order. Destination MT records the meeting electronically for official meeting minutes. Please help the public by identifying yourself when you speak, explain any acronyms that may be used in discussion, and if you're referring to documents, state the name of the document you're referring to, and as a final reminder, the recording will not be edited and no content will be cut. So with that, we'll move ahead, and it is an extreme pleasure to have Paul Green joining us this morning, the new director of the Department of Commerce. And with that, Paul, we will turn the mic and the stage over to you, and we are just thrilled to get to know you and to welcome you to this meeting today.
Thank you, Alicia. Fleur Bay, Paul Green.
I should have called. I was here at like 8:30.
Oh. Job. Good job. Go ahead.
Did I step on somebody here?
Go ahead, Paul.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Yeah, my name is Paul Green. I'm used to introducing myself on Zoom through the legislative process and spell the last name, but I don't, you'd said I didn't have to do that, so I'm not going to. As many of you know, I'm from Eastern Montana. My background is in economic development. Many of you probably remember some of the projects that I've worked on in the past, the power plant out of Hardin, the Bitcoin plant, the detention facility. My background is very eclectic, but of course, our area is we're working right now on getting a resort certification for our facilities. I'm 3 weeks into this, and I'm going to tell you it has been quite an experience. Last year was really quite an experience to go through the legislative process for the first time. And now I just seem to walk into one storm after the other. But what I will say is I appreciate the warm welcome that I've received from so many members that are on the call right here. Everybody has been warm and embraced me, given me tips, offered their assistance. So I look forward to working with all of you here in the very near future. I'm actually in Kalispell right now at a economic research conference. So I'm sorry that maybe the connection may not be as good as it should be, but with that, Alicia, I appreciate it very much. That work, well, warm welcome, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you so much. We are so excited as an industry to be working with you and are thrilled to get to know you better and how we can work together more closely with that. So thank you with that. And so with that, I will go ahead and take a roll call of our council. And if you could unmute yourself and just audibly tell us if you're here or not, that would be great. And we have Mike Johnson.
I'm here.
Haley.
I am also here.
Great. Joan. Nathan.
I'm here.
Hi, Nathan. Saber.
Hello.
Here.
Thank you, Saber. And Paul is not here today. He's traveling, and we have a new member from Whitefish. Are you on with us today?
Yes, right here.
Hi, Matthew. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. With that, we have a quorum, and I'm going to then go back and ask the TAC members to introduce themselves. And I'll call out. So Mike, if you could just tell us who you represent on the council and a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. I'm Mike Johnson. I live and work in Butte, and I represent Southwest Montana, and I have hotels across the state.
Thank you, Mike. And he is the vice chair for the council. I'm going to go to you, Haley. Introduce yourself, what region you represent, and a little about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I am Haley Ship, and I am out of the Glasgow area on our family ranch, which is just north of Glasgow. So representing that northeast eastern portion of the state of Montana. And my life really is in the agricultural world, but it's had a crossover into tourism, and that moving home to a very small community and apparently donning one volunteer shirt too many, I became the volunteer everywhere, which included onto our Chamber of Commerce and our downtown association, and started to realize the role tourism does play. So it's something that I've continued to pursue. I now sit as well on the Agritourism Fellowship Program, which is putting together the first ever agritourism conference in the state of Montana this spring. So really trying to look at how we can couple Montana's first and second industries together, being agriculture and tourism.
Often, let us know the region you're representing. Oh, I think we've got you muted, Matthew.
Oh, still muted.
Sorry about that. I'm Matthew Gibo. I represent the Glacier region and live and work in Whitefish, Montana. I also work in the ski industry. So happy to also have a voice for the winter snow sports industry as well.
Great. It is a pleasure to have you on the council, and welcome to your first meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Saber, we'll toss it to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Saber Moore. I am the representative for Southeast Montana. I live in Ekalaka. I'm sitting in the Carter County Museum right now, which I'm the executive director of. I am also on the TAC as a liaison for the tourism grant program and for the Montana Heritage Commission.
Wonderful. Thank you, Saber. It's good to see you. Nathan, it's your turn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan St. Gador. I'm the tribal member at large for the TAC. I also own and operate Johnson's of St. Mary. It's a seasonal business on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, about half a mile from Glacier Park.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. It's good to see you. Good to
You
see
too.
you. Joan, it's your turn.
Albeit what is on the screen, my name is not Mike Johnson. I am borrowing his link. I'm going to try to get that fixed. I am Joan Cronebush. I am the Central Montana Tourism TAC representative. I work for the Town Pump Hotel Group, and we have hotels everywhere that Mike Johnson does not. Thank you.
That's a good balance on the council there, right there. I'm Alicia Harvey, chair of the council, and I've spent my career in the hotel and resort industry, mostly in and around the US national parks, but also in big cities. I am currently the director of marketing at Museum of the Rockies, where I am sitting currently. And I would like to extend a welcome to the Montana State University Fundamentals of Tourism Management class that we should be meeting right now to have our class discussion today, but their assignment is attending 90 minutes of this meeting and then writing about it for us to chat on Thursday. So I welcome them. I welcome all of the DMOs, all of our tourism partners, and those of you directly or indirectly related. Welcome to our destination management team and our Department of Commerce partners. So we're not going to be individually doing introductions, but it's a great day to see you, and we'll get on with the business of the council. So with that, I call for a motion to approve the October 3rd and 4th, 2023 TAC minutes as recorded by Brand MT or Destination MT. Do I have a first?
This is Saber, so moved.
Thank you, Saber. Second?
This is Nathan. I'll second.
Thank you, Nathan. Second. Any discussion? With no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? With all in favor of playing aye, the approval of the October 3rd and 4th video minutes are approved. I now ask, is there anyone who would like to suggest any changes to the agenda as posted? With no one speaking up with changes to the agenda, we will move on with the meeting as published. We now allow for public comment, being an open public meeting. Please, if you have public comment, please state your name and where you're from. This is the time to comment on matters falling within the purview of the Tourism Advisory Council. There will also be an opportunity for public comment on each agenda item. So public comment is not just limited to right here, but we will save time for public comment. Jamie or Alexandra, do you see anyone that's raised their hand or has anyone with public comment?
We do not.
Okay. All right. With that, I will close our public comment section again. Please remember, all partners, DMOs, you feel free to raise your hand and comment during any of our discussion time as well. So with that, we'll move on to our committee reports, and we start with Joan, the Rules and Procedures Committee Chair. You have the floor, Joan.
Thank you. The Rules and Procedures Committee met, and we voted to adopt the TAC operating policy, and with all the changes, and that motion did pass. And so if anyone has any questions, I would kind of divert to Alicia, because she was a bit more involved in the very beginning of that. So If anyone has any questions, or Alicia or Mike, do you have any comments?
Hi, it's Alicia. Our operating policies, the guidelines that kind of give structure to how the council governs itself. And then the rules and procedures document is how the TAC oversees the DMOs. So this is the document that refers to how the TAC works with Destination MT and the Department of Commerce, the governor's office. So this is really from the legislative changes and name changes to brand MT to Destination MT. We were updating our own guidelines with that. And you'll see that in the track changes that was on the document posted on the TAC. And TAC stands for Tourism Advisory Council, for an acronym moving forward.
Thank you, Alicia. Any other questions or comments? Okay, and I'm going to claim embarrassment here. I don't have my agenda in front of me. Do we need to call for a, do I need to call for a motion, or are we, somebody throw me a lifeline here, please?
Yes, Joan, you need to consider a motion to adopt the updated TAC operating policy.
Thank you. I would call for a motion to update the, or excuse me, to adopt the updated TAC operating policy. Do I have a motion, please?
I can make a motion to adopt the proposed changes to the operating procedure.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Saber, I second.
Thank you, Saber. Do we have any questions or comments before we call for a vote?
This is Mike. Could I ask Alicia and or Joan just to highlight the most significant changes that we are voting on? I recognize some people are new, and I don't know that they know the difference between the old and the new, but I think there were at least a couple things that stand out as different, and maybe the rest of the audience would like to understand that a little better.
Okay. Alicia, if you could take that question for me, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So if you bet, when we open the document and it's called the final TAC SOP for vote in your links. And so one of the major updates that it did was put in the statute, compliance statutes for the TAC. So when we say we're doing something, there's the statute that goes to back it up. So because the legislature updated the statute this year, we had to mirror those legislative updates in the statute. So that was one of the biggest changes. And then obviously it took the council down to no more than 9, where we, I think before, were no less than 12. So that again was legislative updates that came in. And then we changed around some verbiage about our meetings, and that we could the meeting frequency and the quorums, because again, taking us down to 9, we had to adjust what our quorums were. Let's see. We updated how we can call a meeting, that we bring in, that we work collaboratively with Destination MT. So, and then it just tightened up some things that were ambiguous from it before. You know, if that kind of helps, Mike, come in if we didn't, if I didn't capture everything. But one of the interesting things we've learned from this, and that's a change, is how the rules and procedures we adopted 2 years ago, where we allowed the marketing committee to approve DMO, destination marketing organizations, which are made up of regions and CVB organizations. For those of you who are not familiar with the term DMO, we allowed the marketing committee to approve those budgets. So it could be in a timely fashion, and that they wouldn't have to wait till the next council meeting to get their increases in budgets. Well, going through this process, we learned from the Lieutenant Governor's office that indeed should not have been approved, and that the marketing committee should not speak on behalf of all of the council to approve the DMO budgets. So in essence, we're bringing you, Mike will be going through the budget increases soon, which normally you would just get an update on, but we've learned that the marketing committee doesn't have the power to approve that and move forward. So with that, with this caveat of this operating policy, it's kind of been discussed, do we need a marketing committee? Because we can just call, if we need have a lot of budgets to improve for the DMOs, we can reach out to Jamie at Destination MT and do a doodle poll and find out when TAC can meet, and we can meet virtually and just have a 2 agenda meeting, public comment, and then we can approve budget increases or discuss them for action. So that's kind of the gnaw we're gonna work on after this meeting. And I'd suggest the caveat of then going back and working with Mandy at the governor's office to see if we really, our discussion of if we even really need a marketing committee moving forward to go through the budget audits and the budget requests, or we just bring those to the full council. So with that, Mike, I'll flip it over to you to fill in my holes that I've missed.
That was perfect. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you, Alicia. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I would call for a vote for the adoption of the TAC operating policy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All those opposed? Anyone opposed? And any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. And before we move on, I would like to thank everyone involved in this process at Destination MT, TAC, and DMOs. I thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Yes, and thanks to Mandy too. Oh, and John, right? John at the state, he was the lawyer involved there. Great. Thank you, Joan. Well done chairing the committee for that. So Dr. Saber Moore, our representative for the Montana Heritage Commission, if you could give us an update, please.
Thank you, Alicia. Hi, everyone again. So in the chat, I'm going to drop the website, which covers the process of completing the Stonewall Hall, which is Montana's oldest standing territorial building. So they've got lots of really great videos and textual updates about what's going on over there. The Montana Heritage Commission reports that we had a successful year with 763,400 people visiting our site from May through October. 42 businesses operate out of our state-owned buildings, and we continue to preserve our 360 heritage buildings and our large collection of over 1 million Americana artifact collections. Elijah, the director for the Montana Heritage Commission, wanted to express his gratitude specifically to the TAC and to all of our partners here for their support and ongoing efforts to tourism for Montana.
Wonderful. Thank you, Saber. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Saber? Well, Saber, we are very grateful for your updates and your representation. You wear many hats for all of us, and we're grateful you're representing TAC for that. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Alicia.
You're welcome. All right, I'm gonna turn the floor over to Haley and Nathan to give us updates on tribal tourism.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alicia. And Nathan, I'll go ahead and kind of take the reins here at the start, and please add anything that you would like to. But I had the opportunity to catch up with Rochelle Brown, who is our tribal tourism extraordinaire here in the state of Montana. She serves as the tribal tourism officer with the Montana Department of Commerce. And she gave me an update that she was just able to give to a legislative committee last month. And so I'm going to go ahead and share what Rochelle was able to share with me, just to kind of give a little bit of an update to what is going on with tribal tourism right now in the state, and some of what the highlights are as we look forward. So as you can see, we're looking at what we've got for this next few years, their budget, the grant program, some upcoming events, and how they're measuring their success. And so as we look at their objectives, you can see those all on your screen. I don't need to do the PowerPoint read to you all this morning. I believe you all got through elementary just fine. But the big thing that they want to do is just continue to expand and elevate. And also, like, we are all interested in figuring out how to measure what they're doing and figure out if everything is in fact a success. So one of the exciting things that they are in the middle of right now is a training scholarship program for production assistants. So this is for anybody that wants to learn how to put together campaigns, learn how to do video footage, learn how to document what is going on with tribal tourism. As you can see, there's a number of scholarships available, and we've got a current round that's closing on the 15th of February, where there are 40 available scholarships at the beginning for folks that want to get involved with this. You do need to be an enrolled tribal member, but exciting because this is a skill set that, I mean, it's education. Nobody can take education away from you. So you're learning the production assistant role in a tribal tourism atmosphere, but something that you can continue to carry on into whatever you want to do from there. So some of the projects and activities in the budget, the one that really stood out to me is right there on the top left part of your screen, the tribal tourism forums. And so in talking to Rochelle, she's hoping to have 4 of those actually completed by June of this year, and then 4 on the back end of the year, which of course with budgets and such, it's a little bit tricky to get it turned around so quickly to do 4 at the beginning of the year, but hoping to kind of dot those around into different parts of Indian country and really emphasize the ability for tribal tourism within those forums. There's the Tribal Tourism Grant Program, which you can see on your screen, and those are either for shovel-ready programs or long-lasting project categories of destination development and infrastructure, or product development and tech systems. And then upcoming events, they've got the Made in Montana Trade Show, which I know a lot of people will be taking part in, the Governor's Conference on Tourism, and the International Roundup for the Great American West, which is coming up in Casper. And as far as they're measuring success, that's kind of what they've got for their metrics, which I know each of the CBBs, the DMOs, the regions, you're all much more familiar with these metrics than I am. But nonetheless, kind of the bar that Rochelle and her team is holding themselves to within tribal tourism under the Department of Commerce. So Nathan, if you have anything to add, please do so. And Rochelle, I believe, is standing by if there are any specific questions as well.
That was great. The only thing I would add, and it doesn't only benefit Indian country, but also the surrounding areas. If you remember last meeting, the Glacier Park came in with their representatives and they elaborated on the pilot project. And if I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it, that the ticketed entry system will not be needed or done on the east entrance to Glacier Park. I think that's a benefit for the local businesses, including the tribal member businesses on the reservation, as I anticipate a really good tourist season. And I think everyone will benefit from that decision from the Park Service.
That is fantastic news, Nathan. Thank you. And thank you, Haley, and Rochelle. Anybody have questions from the council or the audience? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Nathan, so much, and thank you for working with our partners to prepare that update. All right, we're gonna move on, and I'm gonna move give the floor over to our Vice Chair and Marketing Committee Chair, Mike Johnson. Hello, Mike.
Hello again, everyone. The Marketing Committee has a few things to accomplish this morning. So I believe the first thing on the agenda is to approve the fiscal year 23 audits. So for those of you that had an audit considered in this round, we'll be talking about you at least briefly. Barb, I'm going to ask if you would, for the sake of the council members not on the Marketing Committee, would you bring up the audit report as we did with the Marketing Committee? And as Barb is doing that, I'm going to ask that the rest of the committee understand that your Marketing Committee did go through each one of these audits as Barb has completed them, and the motion from the committee was recommended approval. So I'd like to make sure that each of you have a chance to see what it is the Marketing Committee saw and heard. And then, of course, if you have any questions, we will take those questions as they come. I won't spend a lot of time on this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these unless there are questions. So I'll have Barb do a rapid fire of these. Again, I'll remind you that the Marketing Committee did go through these. This is again looking at fiscal year 23. All right, so the first one on the screen is Glacier Country, and you will see that their audited funds are presented with 72 cents remaining on hand at the end of the audit. I'm going to trust that someone who's watching, hands go up, or if you need to speak up, just please speak up. Otherwise, I'll blast through these. Barb, the next one, please. The next one, please.
1 second. Hang on, we're getting there, Mike.
Okay. I'm hanging.
Yeah. Okay. We have one.
I just don't think I can be full screen and also change the slides. So here it is.
Okay, can everybody see that? That's really small on my screen. Are you guys okay with that? It is. I just want to make sure you can see it again. This is Southwest Montana with 79 cents after the audit on hand. Belgrade is next. After the audit, Belgrade had 10 cents of uncommitted tax funds on hand. Again, I ask you not to be bashful. If you have questions, please shout them out. This is Big Sky, and they had 3 cents. For those that stay on Big Sky for just a second, for those that see the large negative at the bottom for their cash on hand at the end of fiscal year 20, or I guess it's the end. That money has been put to use and is underway being spent. So in case you had that question. The next one is Bozeman. Bozeman has 36 cents of uncommitted tax funds on hand. We have Butte next with 54 cents of uncommitted tax funds on hand at the end of the audit. Glendive. Did somebody have a question? Okay. This one is Glendive. Helena is follows. Helena has 10 cents of uncommitted tax funds on hand. Kalispell. This shows 11 cents of uncommitted tax funds on hand. And the last one for consideration this morning is West Yellowstone with 4 cents of uncommitted tax funds on hand. Barb, if you would like to just provide a quick overview of this audit process and say anything that you think the TAC board members who didn't hear it said at the marketing committee meeting should hear something, now's your chance.
Well, Mike, I don't have much to add to that. I'm glad that we got them all done. I appreciate everybody's work. And that's what I can add to that. Just thanks to everybody.
That's perfect. Are there any questions from the TAC board members about the very quick presentation of the audit reports?
Hi, Mike, this is Alicia. I want to thank you and Barb and Destination MT staff and the marketing committee for very thoroughly going through these with the marketing committee and the DMOs. So I just want to thank everybody. We had a number of questions that were easily answered and very straightforward. So thank you, Mike and the committee and all involved and the DMOs and Barb.
Thank you, Alicia. Are there any questions from the DMOs? Anybody want to defend themselves or speak to their audit? Okay, hearing none then, I'm going to conduct this as we did the marketing committee. And I'm going to read an exhaustive motion and I will make the motion. When I'm finished, I will ask for a second and then we will discuss the motion as presented. So if I could, I would like to move that the TAC approve the following fiscal year 2023 audit reports for each of the respective DMOs, beginning with Glacier Country. And I will move to approve the fiscal year 23 Glacier Country audit with 72 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. I would also move to approve the 2023 Southwest Montana audit with 79 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. Additionally, I would move to approve the fiscal year 23 Belgrade DMO audit with 10 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. I would also move to approve Visit Big Skies fiscal year 2023 audit with 3 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. I would also move that the committee approve the fiscal year 2023 Bozeman DMO audit with 36 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. I would move that the committee also approve the fiscal year 23 Butte DMO audit with 54 cents of uncommitted tax funds remaining on hand. I would also ask for the approval of Glendive 2023 DMO audit with 48 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds on hand. I would also ask for approval of Helena's fiscal year 23 DMO's audit with 10 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. Additionally, I would ask for approval of Kalispell's fiscal year 23 DMO audit with 11 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. And finally, I would move to approve the fiscal year 23 West Yellowstone audit with 4 cents remaining in uncommitted tax funds. That motion is on your screen in front of you. I call for a second, please.
This is
Joan
Haley.
here. Go ahead, Haley.
I think we got a second from Haley. Thank you. Thank you, Joan, for trying. I now ask again, are there any questions from board members about this motion?
Mike, I have no questions, Alicia, about what's presented with the audits. I would like to recommend that the marketing committee at its next meeting take on the duty of streamlining the audit narrative process. When reviewing the audits that were submitted wonderfully by the DMOs, there's a wide range in format And I would just, Mike, as chair of the marketing committee, like to see the marketing committee take on and work with Barb and Destination MT and the DMOs to streamline the narrative and metrics process.
Understood, will do. Any questions from the group at large about the motion? Any public comment or any comment whatsoever? I hear nothing. I see no hands waving in the air. So I will call the question for the board members. All those in favor of the motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 audits as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Anybody abstaining? The motion carries. The audits are approved. Thank you for your patience in that process. Now we will move to the budget increases. So again, Barb or Team and Helena, will you please bring to the screen the budget increases that have been requested? Again, these budget increases are sourced from either the audit or additional revenue. So I want to make sure you understand as board members, that's where these additional budget assignments are coming from. Barb, before we start the list, is there anything to say about the budget increases that we're going to present?
There's not. Once again, I just thank everybody for their hard work and getting these to me in a timely manner.
Okay. All right, so again, council members, we're going to go through these, giving you a glimpse of what your marketing committee has done. And I ask you to just take a look at these. Again, speak up if you have any questions or want clarity, or frankly, just feel like something doesn't make any sense. We'll certainly try to help you through that. On the screen now, you see Central Montana's request for a budget increase of $24,860 allocated according to the column presented above that. So take a look at that and I'll blast through these unless I hear somebody ask me to slow down. Is that fair? Okay, so Central Montana, we have Missouri River Country next. They have a budget increase request of $21,266 with the respective allocation noted in the column above. The next one is Southwest Montana. I want to draw everyone's attention to this one, please. For those of you who sat through the marketing committee, this is not exactly what we approved. So I am allowing for this to come in as an amendment, so we will all approve this as changed. What we approved at the marketing committee meeting was the increase based on the audit. There's also been some revenue projection numbers that have been worked on and added to this increase. You'll see that line is $25,062. So the total increase requested by Southwest Montana is a significant amount. It's $334,000, which has been allocated in the column above it based on each of the respective categories. So I'm going to say again that this is not exactly what the marketing committee saw, but I saw that we could put the revenue projection in here and it was only a small modification to the request. So we will allow the amended request to be considered today by the full council. Does anyone on the marketing committee want to talk about this, or are you comfortable with my choice to slide it in here? Okay, I see thumbs up, and we'll move to Yellowstone Country, please. Yellowstone Country also has a sizable increase of $334,000, which has been allocated in the column above the number. This is all revenue, new revenue projection, so this is a nice problem to have. Belgrade. Again, I hope you're back from your visit to the school. Belgrade has asked for $58,919 to be the amount of their increase following the audit, and they have allocated according to what's on the screen. Bozeman, Bozeman is next.
Did you
Bozeman
see
has
it?
requested a 31,990. Are you guys okay? Can everybody hear me? I'm getting an unstable internet connection, so I may be choking here. Bozeman is a $31,992 increase allocated accordingly. Butte is next. I hope everyone's seeing that. My obviously I'm having some issues here. Their increase is 26,763. Are we okay on everybody's end?
Yeah, Mike,
You
we
can
can
see
hear
this?
you and we can see it. Yep. Mhm.
All right, Glenn. Thank you. Glendive is next. Glendive is asking for a modest $965 increase, and they have allocated that to paid media. Helena. Helen is requesting $52,000 even, allocated according to what you see on the screen. This is both an audit and a revenue projection increase. Kalispell is next. They've requested a $33,025 increase, allocated according to what you see. And finally, West Yellowstone. West Yellowstone has some additional revenue of $38,343 that they are allocating according to what you are able to see on this screen. That is the last of the 11 increases. Does anybody representing those 11 areas wish to speak to any of those increases? We have a lot of talkative people today. Thank you for being so brave and jumping up and speaking. Do any of the council members have any questions about what you just saw? Comments or concerns about what you just saw? Okay. So hearing none, then I'm going to do what we did with the audits if there are no objections, and I'm going to give you an exhaustive, even more exhaustive motion, which when I have completed, I'll be seeking a second, and we will do our best to get through these as quickly as possible. Again, the recommended motion from your marketing committee was to approve these increases. So on your screen, this is the wrong one, guys. Can we get the amended one up, please? My friends in Helena, are you with me? Barb, do we have the amended list?
See that, I'll have to, the Southwest one.
Yep.
Is the only one that's different. Yeah, give me a minute, I'll stop sharing, but you can keep going, I'll find it real quick.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. We'll get those motions up correctly as soon as she can. In the meantime, just try to follow my voice and we'll see how far this gets us. I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024 budget increases for the following regions and DMOs. And I'm going to begin with Central Montana. I would ask the council to approve Central Montana's increase of their budget of $24,860, bringing their total budget to $576,917. I would ask for the approval of Missouri River Country's budget increase of $21,266, taking their total budget to $332,859. We see now on the screen the text of the motion, so I'll continue. I'm also asking for the approval of Southwest Montana's budget increase of, well, 313, I'm gonna have to add them together. $334,000 $342, taking their total budget to $1,304,065. Please check my math. I'd also ask to approve Yellowstone Country's budget increase of $334,000, taking their budget to $3,674, $3,674,004. It's a lot easier than it sounds to say these things. I'd also like to ask for the approval of Belgrade's budget increase of $58,919, taking their total budget to $136,155. I asked for the approval of Bozeman DMO's budget increase of $31,992, taking their budget to $637,264. I'd also move to approve Glendive's budget increase of $965, taking their total budget to $29,618. I would ask for the approval of Helena's budget increase of $52,000, taking their total budget increase to $235,000. Ask for the approval of Kalispell's increase of $33,025, taking their total budget to $293,025. And finally, asking to approve West Yellowstone's budget increase of $38,343, taking their total budget to $476,325. May I have a second, please?
This is Saber. I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for consideration. The text of that motion is mostly on your screen right now. Do any council members have any questions about that motion? And did I get all the numbers correct?
I heard them correctly, Mike. Well done.
Any comments by the council? Are there any questions or comments for anybody on the connection here? Any comments from our team in Helena? Is anybody going to say anything ever?
Doing a great job, Mike.
We're going to get through this. All right, I have a motion and a second on the floor. I will call the question if there are no objections. All those in favor of approving the fiscal year 2024 budget increases as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, congratulations, everyone. The budget increases are officially adopted. Good job, Barb. We made it through it. If I could continue, then I have the third bullet on the agenda, which is the marketing committee update. And I have just one other thing to add for the marketing committee update. Again, Barb, I'd like you to put on the screen the DMO plan timeline as it's currently drafted, so we can talk just briefly about the upcoming schedule. If you have fallen asleep at this point, do wake yourself up just for a second to make sure that you see the pending deadlines, because this will implicate everybody on the call in some form or fashion. You see that May 1st is the first date in which we need action by members of this call. This is obviously is for the fiscal year 25 DMO planning horizon. So we've touched 23, 24, and 25 all in the last 15 minutes. This outlines the schedule as Barb has drafted it. You see that the TAC would be reviewing the marketing plans between the 3rd and 14th of May. We will start to officially act on those by the end of May. And I believe the whole process is then put into final approval at our June meeting, which is the first week of June. Barb, would you like to say anything about this schedule that you've drafted for review here?
Just want to check. We've scheduled the first call for May 23rd. And I'm just wondering, first of all, I need a quorum of the marketing committee. And then is there anybody that knows right off the bat that that's gonna be a bad date? Is there any reason why I can't schedule it for the 23rd and confirm that? Okay, I'm gonna schedule it for at least 2.5 hours. Because we've got 26 DMOs, we might have a couple more this year. So I'm gonna plug in at least 2.5 hours. I'll send out a doodle poll with 2.5 hour blocks for that day. And then, will you flip to the other slide? And then for the plans that don't get approved on the 23rd, then we'll have a second call on the 29th if needed. So the goal, of course, is to get your plan approved on the 23rd, but if we need another call, we'll do it on the 29th. Great, and that's what I have to say about that. Thank you very much. See any hands go up.
Any questions or comments from anybody on the call regarding this schedule as presented? Feisty bunch today. Okay, Barb, I hear no objections, so that means this must be golden. Take it and run with it, okay? Alicia, if you're okay, I'll just continue down the agenda. Is that
Please
okay with
do.
you?
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the DMO reporting roundtable. I'm going to throw a little bit of caution to the wind here. This is the first time we've ever done this. This is certainly difficult to do in a online session, but the intent here is to hear from some of you on the call about your fiscal year 2023 evaluation reports, and then talk a little bit by region, at least one of you per region, about your fiscal year 2025 planning challenges or whatever window you're looking out of today for 2025, if there's anything that you think the TAC should hear, understand, or appreciate. So if you'll all give me a little bit of deference, we're going to try this, and then I'm very open to your feedback as we proceed through this for future reference if this doesn't go as swimmingly as we hoped. What I'm going to ask by region is that I just get you all tuned up by region, get your ears on, and I'm going to ask council members to bring any questions they have about your 2023 evaluation to light. And if you're called on, please attempt to answer the questions. If there are no questions, that's fine. I just want to make sure there's an opportunity for each of the council members to speak to your evaluation. Brenda, you have a question?
Yes, just quickly to clarify, Mike, the regions are answering these questions or the CBBs and regions? Because I guess I wasn't prepared to answer for CBBs and not sure that that's.
I'll clarify. By region, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to call on a region, and then each of the respective parties within that region will be asked, just so we can organize it in some way. And then following that, one member of your region will speak to fiscal year 2025's issues. Does that make sense, everyone? Did I confuse you? Okay. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to start with Glacier Country. And all of you within Glacier Country are on the hot seat for a second. And I'm going to open the floor to council members. Are there any questions about the fiscal year 2023 evaluation reports presented by any members of Glacier Country?
None for me. No questions at this time.
Thank you, Matt.
None from Joan.
It is Alicia. I don't have any.
Okay.
This is Haley, nor do I.
Nathan doesn't either.
This may go more swimmingly than I thought. All right, hearing no questions about the evaluation reports, then I would like to ask Racine to let us know which member of Glacier Country was duly elected to speak to your 2025 thoughts and any noteworthy issues that whoever wishes to tell us will tell us. Who do you got?
Well, as much as I tried to get out of it, I was duly elected to do this.
All
So,
right, you got it. Take us away.
all right. We had a really dynamic conversation, just kind of talking about things overall, but we came down to just two things primarily. One of the things that we are looking at in terms of challenges of looking at FY 2025 is really kind of addressing how are we going to predict collections for FY 2025 based on the current low snow levels that we are having right now. With our region being so heavily dependent on winter recreation, we have a lot of concerns about how our communities are dealing with business, and also how that is translating over into lodging tax collections to the point where we can accurately predict what our budgets are going to be. And it isn't just this quarter that we're concerned about, it's also how is that going to translate into summer. So that's one of our biggest concerns that we have right now. In terms of the plan itself, we just want to kind of speak to continuity and consistency in reporting and trying to figure out how can we create a little bit more of that, and whether that is being done being addressed at the rules and regs committee level, or whether that can be addressed at the handbook level, just trying to provide some more clarification for all of us of which we should, or what kind of questions and information we should be providing.
Racine, this is Alicia.
Excellent, Racine. Thank you. Are there any questions for Racine?
Yeah, Racine, when you say continuity of reporting, that is great. Can you be specific on which reporting you're referring to?
Well, there's obviously there's the narrative reporting, and we, when we were looking at them and kind of even looking at our own, there's a difference of what that looks like for all the different regions, and whether that's varies based on the type of program or organization we have or budget level or such. That could very well play in to favor, but also just kind of looking at what kind of questions, how long should it be, what does that look like? Because it does vary consistently across all of those different forms. So
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I brought it up in the audit, the discussion a little earlier, that, yeah, I think we can help out and streamline that there. With the snow levels the way they are, how is your region doing? How, it'll be months before we see the lodging collections report, right? How is your region doing? How's Whitefish and other places doing?
well, our communities are hurting. It depends across the board, but we've got some areas like Libby who are hurting really badly. Turner has not opened up this year. They've got events being canceled left and right. And so when you look at a small region like that, or a small area like that, it's really impacting them versus maybe some of our other areas, like Whitefish is certainly open, and the other ski areas, but we do not have the visitation that we would normally have. There's people who are wanting to chase the snow. They're watching where the snow's at, but afraid there's a lot of places in Western United States that just doesn't have it right now. So we've got to figure out how do we address that overall, but also we've got to figure out how do we counter that.
Barb, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to also say that, even places like Missoula that is not as dependent as Whitefish is on skiing and mountain recreation, we're seeing in our weekly star reports, almost double digits down, and that's really concerning. We haven't seen that since before the pandemic.
And so I was waiting for something to get in winter 3 years like that.
Same for Kalispell. And I think that we always have to
But
remember
that-
that the winter traveler makes their travel decisions in a much shorter time frame than the warm season traveler. They look at snow levels, they look at events and activities going on, and we're between Whitefish Mountain Resort and Blacktail Mountain, and Whitefish has been open, but conditions variable, and Blacktail had to close for a while. They are reopened now. Even snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or all these other winter activities have not been available. So definite decreases in occupancy and demand in December and January for us.
And I'll just add, this is Julie with Explore Whitefish, that our forward-facing reservations are down anywhere between 15 and 25%. So as we look to the remainder of February and into March, what's been shared by the hotels.
I appreciate the comments about the snow and the thoughts. Can you just take that one step farther? So what are you all doing about it? What are you thinking about the impact this may have on your plan, and how does it truly hit the paper?
I can speak to ours. What we're doing right now is looking at what kind of activities can we be promoting and experiences can we be promoting. They're not dependent on snow necessarily, and also looking to the summer based on what our communities want and what their capacity is activities that they can do that might be impacted based on fire and smoke. So certainly wanting to figure out how to counter the impacts of it to the different seasons, but also figuring out how do we maybe look at increasing spring or such. We're actively working on that with our agency right now.
I would echo what Racine said. We're doing just exactly the same kind of thing. A lot of really looking at what can people do indoors if we need to during the summer. But most of our marketing anyway is really heading towards, you know, spring and fall into those seasons, because I think they're going to be the most secure for a while.
Yeah, I agree. And just to be prudent with our funds and the uncertainty of how this quarter is revenue is going to come in. Really want to boost that promotion for spring to drive some visitations between the lack of snow and potential wildfires, but also being cognizant of the fact that our revenue might be decreasing. So might be holding off on some larger cost projects until we see how that comes in.
Yeah, and I'd love just to add, we launched a Destination Appeal organic media campaign called For the Love of Great Food, again, drawing attention to the destination appeal, in addition to, of course, the outdoor recreation. So if you haven't checked it out, please check out our social media, because it's kind of a fun series, and we'll have another one dropping tomorrow, another video.
Well, I think we all respect the challenges that are being faced by the region due to weather and the changes to outdoor recreation. So we all appreciate very much what you're doing and look forward to seeing the benefits of the activities currently underway. Are there any other comments or questions about fiscal year 25 from Glacier Country? Does anybody have questions to Glacier Country from anywhere?
Is there anything you need from the council or Destination MT or anything that hasn't been discussed in all of our other side meetings, the pulse meeting, that can be done to help your region right now?
I don't know that we have anything quite yet to discuss, but as plans begin to formulate, we'll certainly be reaching out to different people. We're being countered by a couple, three major bridge closures that are also impacting our communities. So there's some infrastructure issues that I'm going to be bringing up on some future calls with the Department of Commerce to see if there aren't things that we can collaborate with them on.
Thank you, Racine. Racine also brought in the next region, the issue of reporting into the forefront. So if I could, I'd like to take the rabbit trail from Racine's comment about reporting. Joan, as the Rules and Regs Committee Chair, I guess I'd like to formally request that there be a discussion about reporting and the consistency of reports. I have in my hand all of the fiscal year 2023 evaluations, and they vary vastly, both in quality as well as just sort of definitionally what was given to us.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that we have some standard for evaluation as we move forward. I want to go on record saying this is the first time the TAC, in my experience, has talked about an evaluation. So I think this is positive. What I'm not sure is that we got the kind of information that was truly helpful to understanding the success of your efforts based on what you set out to do at the beginning of the plan. So having said that, I'm getting the sense we may not have a lot of questions about these, which is perfectly fair. I hope the TAC did read them. They were on the link at the website level next to this meeting. I hope that there was some time put into them. However, I do think this process can be done better. So will you take the assignment, Joan, of beginning that process through the handbook or through the rules and regs or whatever it may come to, but I'd like to see some consistent year-end reporting. Is that fair?
Yes, the Rules and Procedures Committee will take that on.
Awesome. Thank you, Joan. So the next region I'd like to ask to take the spotlight is Central Montana. James and the Great Falls Haver crew. Hi, Rebecca.
So I'm going to take the lead on behalf of James. He is currently facing some health issues and in the hospital. So he has provided me some remarks, and so I will do my best. Central Montana.
I'll let you do those now.
Okay. Central Montana's near horizon includes implementing one of the strategic plan's early goals with the creation of a regional brand, and in turn implementing that new brand into new dynamic marketing efforts for fiscal year 25. The organization is taking steps to get our foundation established, again, based on that strategic plan that we worked so hard to develop, with the addition of organizational governance committees, destination development committee, destination management committee, and a destination stewardship committee. These will all be added to our organizational structure that will help give our one-person DMO staff kind of that support and direction that they need. We're also in the process of hiring a third-party bookkeeper to kind of free up the DMO staff that the organization does have to focus on more of the strategic efforts that we now have in that plan. Great Falls is also nearing the completion of its travel industry growth plan. And this process included an additional strategic plan for the Great Falls, Montana Tourism Organization as well. So for fiscal year 25, Central Montana is interested to see how the elimination of vehicle reservations at the St. Mary entrance for Glacier National Park will go. The assumption is that it will benefit Central Montana greatly. Great Falls has already begun initial campaigns to encourage visitation to Glacier National Park via Great Falls because of that great opportunity that exists. And the research from Great Falls' travel industry growth plan revealed 43% of stays in Great Falls' lodging properties in 2023 came from skilled workers and business travelers. This is outside of any convention or group meetings. That segment was more prominent in 2022 due to Calumet's renewable fuels project and is expected to continue to be a constant or even grow connected to the announced projects at Benefice Health Systems and Malmstrom Air Force Base, some new housing construction, and the growth of Touro University locally. We anticipate impacts not just in Great Falls, but in Lewistown with some long-term stays. Great Falls has formed a local task force to begin discussing how to better engage with that temporary resident and ensure a great experience within the community for a potential return leisure trip. Room demand in Great Falls for 2023 was down 6% against 2022. Again, that year dominated by that skilled worker staying in lodging properties for Calumet's renewable fuels project. Room demand is up over 2019. And with the first ever travel industry growth plan in Great Falls and a strategic plan for Central Montana, we are hopeful for more collaboration throughout the region for more stable and consistent growth for the future. Myself, as a director of the board of Central Montana Tourism, I do get the opportunity to share the news that James Cooler, our executive director, will be leaving the organization. In his letter of resignation, he has stated his last day of work will be February 16th. And although his tenure has been really short, James has positively impacted the Central Montana organization. His leadership led to the adoption of the organization's strategic plan, which could likely be the first in the organization's history, brand development, and a bylaws update, all that has focus on the future and growth of tourism in Central Montana. It hasn't been easy for anyone to step in and lead an organization who has benefited from 30 plus years of strong leadership, and he did that willingly with humility and grace. James did ask that I share. He has greatly enjoyed getting to know many of you and serve the tourism industry in this great state of Montana. And that is our collective update from Central Montana, and I'd be happy to field any questions that you saw fit.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any questions for Rebecca / Central Montana? Well, she just left, so I hope that there aren't any. Oh, now she's back. Uh, Obviously, we're all sad to hear the news about James. I did not know that, so I'm sorry to hear that. Can you give us a little bit of reaction by the board and what the plan is to move forward?
The board will fully know this Thursday what that transition plan is. Of course, they're grateful for his service and not really looking forward to, again, replacing that leadership. But that transition plan, we've got some really interesting options that the board is going to discuss and consider. The first kind of step is when the board hired James as the director, it was really fluid and open as to where basically the corporate headquarters of the organization could be, allowing for potential work from an office or potential work from home. And so really the initial conversation from the executive committee and the board's direction will be establishing a corporate headquarters in Great Falls. Just made the most sense for us as an organization to be located here. We saw a lot of additional admin expenses having a staff person out within the region as its headquarters. And so we're still going to look at flexible workspace and those type of things, but the core of the organizational operations will be within our organization's building from that beginning standpoint. We are looking at options of pay structures and duties to streamline a lot of what the position did. Like many small businesses, we hire one staff to do everything, and they can't necessarily do it all extremely well. And so the organization's really looking at what can we parse out and really focus in on what we actually need from the executive director to make the biggest difference moving forward, and what partners can we secure to help with that, or what additional staff might we be able to either leverage or hire to make the organization stable enough for the future, so that we can see that growth within this region for tourism. And those discussions include whether it looks like part-time executive director, full-time marketing person, 3/4 time executive director with a quarter admin. Whatever that might look like, the board will be discussing that this Thursday as to what that future looks like. Because we've already gone through this strategic planning process, it's been very helpful for the board to re-engage as an active board. And so I'm confident that for fiscal year 25, the strategies that will be presented in the marketing plan will be ones that the board has already been thinking about because of that process. So I really see the organization at the cusp of really being to implement some great stuff and continue that momentum that James has started for us.
Rebecca, thank you for all of your efforts. I think it's safe to say that I'll speak for everybody on the call. If there's anything you guys need or anybody can help and assist or even just be a sounding board, don't hesitate to reach out.
We will do that. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions for Rebecca that we didn't get? Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Carla, Missouri River Country. There she is. Are there any questions on Carla's evaluation for fiscal year 2023? Did anybody have any questions for her? Okay, Carla, I assume that you are the representative for your area. That was an easy delegation. You have the floor.
Thank you. So here is Missouri River Country's scenario for our upcoming planning horizon. We will continue to do our usual DMO plan with allowable methods such as co-op marketing, working with our local communities and chambers, earned media, education outreach, joint ventures. We see value in collaborating with the state and other DMOs, paid media, including print, digital, and social. We will do a couple trade shows, visitor services. We need to print our travel guide. We do our travel guide in a 2-year cycle. So we designed it in FY24 and we will print it in FY25. Also included in visitor services is fulfillment, and we will continue to update and maintain our website. Now, all these projects will align with the Missouri River Country Resiliency Plan and the state strategic plan. But it's all contingent on our projected revenue, including the traditional Regional Assistance Program, also known as RAP, R-A-P. Based on FY24, our budget, including the 90,000 RAP funds, was 217,000. However, without the RAP funds in our DMO budget, leaving us with approximately 127,000 based on FY24 projected revenue for our region of 8 counties, we will have to eliminate several methods and reduce some of them. We will eliminate earned media, marketing personnel, trade shows will be totally off the table, and paid media budget, which includes print, digital, and social, will be reduced. Education outreach, joint ventures, co-op marketing, we'll probably have to eliminate altogether also, and our website updates will be reduced. Our paid media will be so limited, I'm just totally concerned that is it even going to be effective with that limited funding. So without our traditional 90,000 RAP funds in our FY25 DMO plan budget, we don't have much to work with. No marketing dollars to market our already developed Trail to the Stars and our Talking Trail app. And once our Beyond the 49th Parallel, our Saskatchewan project is complete. Unless we can move some of these methods over to SB 540, the RAP plan. So here's another scenario. Thanks to SB 540, underfunded and undervisited areas such as Missouri River Country will receive up to 500,000 into their budget and CVBs up to 75,000. Missouri River Country currently doesn't have a CVB. So it's my understanding that Missouri River Country will have the opportunity to apply for additional funding to bring us up to the legislative approved 500,000. But at this time, I don't know what that looks like. What is allowable in the use of RAP budget plan and no guarantee of getting it approved. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're so thankful for this extra funding, but it's just the unknown. So will we be able to move
some of the methods, such as joint venture, co-op marketing, website, and outreach over to the RAP plan. According to the Regional Assistance Program application guidelines, it states asset development and collaborative promotion are allowable. So would that include marketing beyond the 49th parallel and Trail to the Stars, since they are both collaborative projects? So we've developed these projects, and if marketing isn't allowable in the RAP plan, how do we market them? How do we get people to know about the product that we developed? So basically, much is unknown to me about the RAP plan, and which budget will my traditional 90,000 RAP funds go into? As I stated previously, if it doesn't go into our DMO plan budget, it will be eliminating and reducing many methods. So it would be so helpful to know ahead of time, so I don't have to create 2 DMO plans, one with RAP funding and one without. And keep in mind, I'm only one person over here writing up an application for RAP funds and then having to do 2 DMO plans. So, and once again, I stress that I am not complaining about getting the extra funding. I just would like some direction. And so thank you for allowing me to present Missouri River Country's unique situation. And if I could get any answers today, it would be very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Carla, thank you very much for the question. I think you articulated your dilemma very well. Thank you for that. For the board members who may be new, some of that may have been confusing to you. So offline, we can try to help you understand the Senate Bill 540's impact on funding and the things that Carla mentioned. This is a big question. This is a big dilemma. I've asked for clarity on these issues, and frankly, I don't know any more than you do, Carla. So maybe I could ask to have someone from our Helena team reach out to Carla outside of this call and offer whatever guidance that you can for her as she lays out her process to complete or build her 2025 fiscal plan. I'm hopeful that we can get that advice to her, or if there isn't any, tell her there isn't any. But I hope that we can get that addressed. Would somebody be willing to take that task?
Somebody in the right program. Again, I mean, we wish that we had more information to share, but until it's through the ARMS process, we're legally bound not to talk about it. And we do have some timeline updates in terms of what it looks like the timelines are going to be at this point. But I mean, per legal, we can't unfortunately give any additional information other than what's in the guidelines. As soon as we hit the effective date, I anticipate that there'll be a lot of information to support you all, so that you can move forward in the best possible way. We wish that our timelines were different. However, we're kind of in the same boat as you all. Like, we have a whole lot of things that have to happen all at the same time between now and the end of the fiscal year. So we completely empathize. But that's, I know it's the same answer, but that's kind of where we're at, unfortunately.
So we are traditionally, historically, we've always got this 90,000. Before this even SB 540 RAP fund situation came up. And so you can't even tell me if I'm going to get that 90,000 again. I mean, I know it's RAP, so is it going to be, and I know you can't talk about it, but is it going to be included in this pot, or does it get to go into my DMO plan budget? And once again, can you tell me anything about that at least? Because that was original. That's traditional. That usually went in our pot.
That question. And we had talked about this earlier in the development stage, when we clarified that you would get your 90,000 for the current fiscal year, but that this would be the last time that we would be able to disperse those RAP funds in the way that they were. Because of Senate Bill 540, we had to change the process for how we would distribute those funds. So this will be the last fiscal year, the current fiscal year for the 90. moving forward, all of the regional assistance programs will be tied into the process for Senate Bill 540.
Okay, thank you. That at least gives me some direction. So now I plan my DMO plan on a limited budget. And I just have to wait to hear what I can put into my RAP fund budget, I guess. Is that what I'm hearing?
From my perspective, yep, that would be, you would have to work with your statutory appropriation in one way, and then the Senate Bill 540 application for what is allowable within the guidelines, which you mentioned previously.
Okay. So can I ask the TAC here today, if I write up my plan, I mean, I usually already started by now. I can't be last minute. I have to get it done quickly. And so if I write that up and put some of that stuff in there, well, yeah, I'm just confused. I'm just talking out loud here because I guess I can't put some of that stuff in there because I don't have enough funding. I can only do with what I have funding for, and I can just hope that I can do some of that in the RAP funds. I kind of was speaking out loud there, but if anybody understands what I was saying there.
Carla, I do understand your question. I'm deeply regretful of the stress that this is causing. And I think at least you got a little bit of guidance in terms of what your plan needs to look like, and your, as it's referred to as your statutory budget will just need to contain whatever you estimate it will contain, and will act accordingly. So if that helps you a little bit, I'm glad. I do, again, deeply regret the situation that this has created. So for whatever it's worth, Carla, I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I thank you again for the courage to speak up and present your questions. I see that Barb may have a question for maybe Carla. Barb?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a question across the board for you guys. Could Carla put in to her plan the projects that she would like to do if she gets the RAP funds, but put them as just a line item without attaching money to them, so that she's held a line item that if the money comes in, then she can actually move the money into that? You know, like we do kind of with crisis, if she put like $10 or something in there, you know, just to hold the line item. Would that be a possibility so that she doesn't have to completely go back to the drawing board?
Barb, I'll clarify before everybody jumps in. The RAP money will not be included in any way, shape, or form in marketing or TAC oversight. So
Okay.
that money will be a grant only. It stays outside. So it probably doesn't make any sense to hold any line in this budget when no money can follow ever.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for trying, Barb.
All right, Carla, we're gonna move on. Thank you so much for, again, your story and your request for help. I hope that somewhere in all of this discussion there was a little bit of help.
Yes, and thanks for hearing me out.
Thanks for everything you do, Carla. Southeast Montana is next on our agenda. I see Brenda is alive and awake. Thank you for being awake. Do we have Glendive and Miles City on the call as well?
Yep.
Do we? Okay, I'll trust. I can't see them on the call, but I'll trust they're here. Are there any questions for Brenda, for Billings, Glendive, or Miles City regarding their end of year evaluation report for fiscal year 23? Okay, again, that worked really well, so I thank you for that. Now I'd like to ask whoever was elected to represent your region to speak to your 2025 question. Who got elected?
So
Brenda, all right, take it.
I was following your geographic clockwise fashion. So do my best to do this within 5 minutes on my first shot. But the three of us did have a quick call, and I'll report first about the CBBs, and then some overall observations about the region, and take questions. So Miles City reported that they're moving along with their plan with a focus on upcoming events, specifically sports. And when we say sports, we're including rodeos, of course, because we are talking Miles City. Glendive is also reporting progressing according to plan, including a contract with Datafy to get some more specific research that will help them better target their advertising for Visit Glendive, and updating the website with some new content, plan your day, plan your weekend, and updating their visitor guide with 10 lists of things to do in Glendive. And I'm a little bit on Glendive on the regional perspective. Visit Billings has been busy with their great staff, of course, leading a lot of initiatives. They do have a 2027 strategic plan presented to the community that's moving forward through leadership, stakeholders, TBID, and so on and so forth. I was part of that process, and I will tell you it was pretty amazing. They also have Alex noted that fall and winter months have shown us softer room demand percentages, but the rate is still strong. Again, more of that at the regional level. Their team is on track for attending all their fiscal or meeting all their fiscal year sales goals with their sports tourism. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Air service headquarter visits from a team from Billings, including the Visit Billings staff, has been successful as capacities and routes grow at Billings Logan International with Sun Country and some other established carriers. They're looking forward to hosting the Montana Air Service Rendezvous later this year. And the CTA program, Certified Tourism Ambassador program that Visit Billings has launched, now has more than 200 tourism partners certified. So that's, I think, very impressive. And it's really taking off with moving forward with momentum. As their certified autism destination efforts are also strong. The staff has all been renewed as certified autism travel planners and have a few hotels partners and even Zoo Montana on that list. They have a University of Mary Doctorate student also working on her capstone project as it relates to focusing on accessibility for physically disabled populations in Billings, or to travel to Billings. And they're doing their usual amazing job with their agency on warm season, specifically looking at the Billings Brew Trail and Billings as a road race destination with the Montana Women's Run and Montana Marathon. Do not look for me in those races. The only thing, if you see that, look for the bear. And they have renewed, updated, completely overhauled their guidebook. Now, from a regional level, in addition with our strategic goals and planning that we have done in collaboration with the resiliency plan with Coraggio, which thank you again for that opportunity. A couple things to note. Back to Glendive, Makoshika State Park will have a major road project this spring, which impacts the park, including the night sky viewing. And as with other projects, I think I heard Racine mention constructions and bridges. It's a challenge to talk across the channels. Specifically in this case, it would be FWP. I'm also seeing budget cuts in FWP. I don't know if that other regions and folks are seeing that, such things as staff maybe not being able to travel to attend a meeting, who might be a board member, or not filling positions. That's very concerning. Also, a report that the Milwaukee Bridge in Prairie County, which connects the community of Terry to the Terry Badlands, which of course we promote for outdoor adventures, has been out, and just the communication of that has been difficult, and that involves Department of Transportation and county commissioners. And last, as mentioned before, the Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument renovation that is scheduled to start this winter spring has not yet launched, but that will greatly impact visitor access and experience between now and their targeted completion date of June of 2026. So it's 2 years plus. And it will also really impact tribal tourism, specifically Crow, as they're the concessionaires. And honestly, I am very concerned about that traffic not coming up into Montana between Rapid City and Yellowstone, and it's staying down in Wyoming, and that's been a concern before, but this gives it's just one more big hurdle. I will note that I have another meeting with National Park Service later this week They've had quite a few personnel changes. They do not yet have a contract or a confirmed timeline. Everything is gray and not really things that can be shared publicly. And I guess that's the report. So, but on behalf of Visit Billings and all of Southeast Montana, we're also excited to host you here in Billings in June. So that's it. Did I make my 5 minutes?
Nice work, Brenda. Thank you. Any questions for Brenda by anybody? Any questions for Billings, Glendive, or Miles City?
Those are a lot of challenges, Brenda. What help do you need from people on this, in this meeting?
You know, one thing that we have really tried to do in the past, and I think we kind of tried it with a Facebook page, is I think if you think about, let's just take the little Bighorn battlefield information, because that's kind of top of mind for me right now. You know, we're communicating that out to really three or four different groups. I mean, one, of course, is the traveling public, and that's, you know, an advertising component. But a component that I think is super important is all the little chambers and CBBs and visitor information centers, because we know that face-to-face contact that our visitors have is super important. And I'm just not really sure how to do that. I don't know that we have the best method to get all the way down in the state. And I think it's really, you know, maybe we can take some lessons of what we learned about the park closure. I'm not sorry, not the park closures, but the ticketed systems at the national parks, and, you know, revamp some of that. I haven't wrapped my brain around it enough, Alicia, to really even know some of that, but I also feel that when it comes to other projects like FWP's work at Akoshika and some of the changes that we're seeing happening, that I'm experiencing happening with FWP, you know, I look to Commerce to have that conversation horizontally, and then bring it to us vertically. So yeah, there's a lot there. I also, the one thing I did forget to mention, back to Visit Billings' comment about the lower occupancy but higher ADR. So our revenues, what I'm seeing are either flat or, you know, they're not moving a lot. We're still okay revenue wise according to budget, but, you know, I think it's a conversation we've always had. What's a better measurement that we can use across the state? From the smallest communities to state level, because lower occupancy rates it's concerning for sure.
Very good. Any other questions for Brenda? Okay. I would like to move now, if I could, to Southwest Montana. If those of you in the Southwest Montana region would awaken your eyes and your ears. The first question goes to the council members. Are there any comments or questions about Southwest Montana's fiscal year 23 evaluations? All right, I'm going to assume there are none. So thank you. Did I hear somebody? Okay, I can't see the full screen, so please speak up if you need to. Otherwise, then I will ask Sarah. Sarah, who was elected to speak for your region this morning?
Yeah, I'm going to be the one speaking for the region.
Okay, you got it. Go ahead.
Okay, well, for Southwest Montana, our big news is we have a new public relations manager. We're thrilled to have Maria Porchavina, you know, working with us, and she'll help us to be more proactive moving forward. And we are currently going through the resiliency plan and deciding on what we will prioritize and how we will work with our stakeholders on all of this. We will be going out for an RFP for an ad agency. It's that time for us to do that. And we will be looking at doing a regional branding and a strategic plan as well. We're going to be reviewing and updating our bylaws and expanding our connections to more people in the rural areas. We want to really work with creating continuity of branding and more cohesiveness between our CDBs and Southwest Montana. We did join Yellowstone and Glacier Country's Glaciers to Geysers, and that's been pretty expensive for us. We'll be going to the Calgary Travel Show next month. We're adding stargazing to our website, and we've added and expanded the Continental Divide Trail. That we have 4 gateway communities there, and it's of great interest to people. So that's been a big deal for us. For fiscal year 25, we are planning on getting out in the rural areas and finding out what their individual needs are and see how we can help with marketing and some of their needs. And we're also working on customer service. We're trying to figure out the best way to really work with people to really help with working with our frontline people on customer service. So we are continuing with our community program where we work with the University of Montana and Rick Grutz, where we are expanding all the history, the photos, the essays, stories, the maps for all of our region, the whole 9 counties in our region. The History Museum, which we call it the Montana History Museum is what we're calling it, in Helena, is scheduled to open in the summer of 2025. We're really excited about that. And let's see, I have, we're also gonna, continue with some of our other niche markets. Like we do a bookstore trail that now is expanded through most of Montana, and the paranormal. So, and of course with our history tours and things. And I'll go on to our communities for Dillon Beaverhead. We had Rebecca Jones reporting that they are working on fiscal year 25 marketing plan. Their Chamber and Local Development Corporation are considering merging their efforts to help with tourism and economic development. They presented to their county commissioners to approve a seat on the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority Board so that all of Beaverhead County will be participating. They were open to the idea of having a seat at the table with the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. Hopefully a resolution will soon follow in the coming weeks. Having passenger rail would really help with the remoteness and tourism in Dillon area. New housing is continuing to be built in Dillon. Their challenges: warm weather has foiled many snowmobiling trips. Skiing is okay with the conditions. Warm winter is becoming a worry with regards to water limitations this summer and perhaps fire dangers. Lima School District has reduced the hours of their superintendent and canceled all extracurricular activities for the high school, including all sports. This is due to the lack of population of students in the area. Jackson Elementary School has only 1 student. And Beaverhead County and Dillon need to step up economic development efforts to help drive their local economy. Tourism should help this summer. And for Anaconda, they are slowly plugging along on their projects. One signed project is held up due to a mistake by the contractor on materials. In the meantime, they are consulting with Job Corps to have them make their sign and have someone else install it. Printed materials are also a little slow. Edits have been gathered for the map project, and they will finally find out who did the last edition. And they finally found out who did the last edition. They are looking forward to seeing improvement in the Yellowstone Journal digital and print advertising over last year, and they are helping the Wayne ESPYs tournament in March with advertising as part of their joint ventures and opportunity marketing. Their lodging tax is down for the 4th quarter of 2023. The weather has really affected Anaconda, and hopefully the current quarter will pick up now that they have snow. They do not anticipate any change in their budget of $21,527. For Butte, Butte is currently working on a photo shoot for Tim Montana. He was strongly urged to do this cover photo shoot in metropolitan cities like New York. He insisted it will be done in Butte, his hometown. So we're pretty pleased to have Tim Montana. He's done several projects in our region, and he's becoming more and more popular all the time. Next week, he and his crew will be here scouting and working on details for the shoot to be held later in the week. Calgary hosted a Calgary tour company who is only interested in Butte, Helena, and Great Falls. These tours could begin as early as this fall and then into 2025. Sporting events will be commencing in the mining city beginning in mid-February and going through later in March. Butte will be hosting the state gymnastics and swim as well as basketball. The TBID chair, Steve Lubick, general manager of Fairmont Hot Springs Resort, has worked diligently on a video project using content gathered from our website agency, Tempest Technologies, and local videographer, Corey Gransberry. These videos will be deployed along all digital platforms. And in reviewing digital campaigns as well as social, Butte is performing above benchmarks for the first half of fiscal year 24. For Helena, their highlights include in November, they brought the Special Olympics basketball tournament to Helena for citywide sellout. It was a great community event and a wonderful first year of a 3-year commitment. They continue to see the strength in the sports market, particularly basketball and lacrosse. And for what's working or what's coming, they are pleased with the Spotify ads that were run for the shoulder season campaigns. And they will be using this more going forward. And it's great to see Helena stretching how they are marketing themselves. For issues, their occupancy is trending down year over year, but is still above 2019, particularly in the ADR. Anything you think that TAC would be interested in knowing? And they said they can't think of anything right now. So that's it for Southwest Montana.
Questions for Sarah? All right, I'm going to call in the last region and then I'll try to come back and address some of the evaluation questions that we may have had. So our last,
Alicia, sorry,
go ahead.
I couldn't get unmuted.
Go ahead.
Sarah, are the parts of your region like Anaconda doing similar things like some of the DMOs in the Glacier Country region by pivoting some of their marketing campaigns to spring and summer, or how are they trying to recuperate some lost revenue for their areas due to the weather?
Well, we do have Mary right here. If you want to address that, Mary.
Some of that is by helping the Wayne Estes tournament, which is in March, because it's become more of a Montana tournament where we used to attract players from the surrounding states. So by helping them market a little bit earlier, they actually have things up February 1st. And so maybe next year even earlier. We're hoping to fill more beds in March because we still don't know, are we going to have snow? Last year, Discovery was open until April, like the first week in April. So if we get late snow like we have the last couple of years, especially in February, that could happen again. But, you know, that we can't depend on the weather. And when it was 50 below when we had our ice sculpting contest during our festival, the Winter Moon, that kind of curtailed people coming also to Anaconda for that, or moving around town. We didn't see the traffic because the last 2 years previously, it was 40 degrees out. So we are trying, but you know, with such a limited budget, we don't have really that many funds that are free to react to this. So we're just doing the best we can.
Another thing that we have done, we have bumped up the funds available for cooperative marketing. And so, and Anaconda is usually really good at working with cooperative funds. So I'm sure Mary will be, you know, applying for even more funds to help with their marketing going on.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Southwest Montana. Robin and Yellowstone Country, are you all still with us?
Well, I'm here and I think the others are as well.
All right. So Robin, before you begin, I'd just like to, in case there's anybody that has any questions about the fiscal year 23 evaluations, it would be your last chance to ask any. Does anybody have any comments or questions about those? Okay. So Robin, were you elected to speak on behalf of your team?
I wasn't elected. I volunteered to take one for the team. So to that end, I had asked the DMO leaders to send me their comments that they wanted me to share. A couple of them were able to do that. Others were traveling or busy and unable to, so they may be available to answer specific questions if you have them for them. But in general, so to address the winter issue that everyone else in our fellow regions is facing and dealing with, Yellowstone Country does have a very slow start to our winter. We're quite concerned about that on a number of fronts, cancellations as well as lower collections. You know, getting the people who already have their plans to come out and are coming regardless, making sure that they still have a great experience. So we've been really pushing out the messaging of everything that there is to do in the region in spite of lack of snow or small or lower snow levels. The resorts are all operating, just not at full capacity as we'd like to be. Hopefully this recent snow has helped a little bit. Haven't heard any specific reports yet from the attractions, but we all continue to do our snow dances. And again, as I said, we are promoting the indoor activities as well as not that we want to be promoting this, but you can get out and walk and hike around this area this time of year, which is usually unheard of. So you can still get out and recreate. From the perspective of fiscal year 25 from the region, our biggest opportunity also is one of our biggest challenges, which is promoting our smaller communities and our more rural areas as micro destinations, while being mindful of the fact that some of these areas may not have the level of amenities and or experience to offer that meet visitor expectations. But we are continuing to build awareness of these areas, working to move visitors from the hot spots to the more hidden gems, as we like to call them. A secondary challenge that goes with that is to balance what a community wants. So some of our communities need and want more visitors and have asked us specifically to help promote them. Other communities have a legitimate fear that if we promote them too much, they will be quote unquote overrun with visitors, which is an actual quote from a community leader in one of our communities. So it's trying to find that balance. We've been working diligently on that for the past couple of years, and that will remain a big focus for us in fiscal year 25. We are also working on our resiliency efforts. We've formed a steering committee from around the region, some really great leadership in that. We'll have our first in-person planning meeting the 1st of March and hit the ground running with some projects for that. So excited to see what the community representatives come to the table with, that we can find a way to assist them and meet not only the Yellowstone Country regional goals, but also the community goals and what they would like to see happen. Transitioning to the comments I did receive from a couple of the DMOs, specifically Red Lodge asked me to share. They are continuing to work on their wayfinding projects. They are working to bring DACs and voices to speak at city council meeting about the value of tourism. They want to continue those education and outreach efforts as much as possible through the community and the area. And a big project for them in fiscal year 25 will be to produce a new brochure that will include the Leave No Trace messaging, as well as will have content that drives to more targeted interest for visitors. From Bozeman, they have a lot going on, so I'm just going to read theirs because it's busy here. So the biggest opportunity the Bozeman DMO is experiencing is rapid growth with no signs of a slowdown. Bozeman continues to be a desirable destination for both in-state and out-of-state visitors and a great place to do business. The biggest challenge is that hotel rooms are projected to grow from 2,787 in 2023 to 6,000 rooms by 2029. However, most occupancy still occurs during the peak season of June through September, so filling the shoulder seasons is crucial to sustain the number of hotels. One of the issues is that we need more meeting space to attract meetings and conventions greater than 400 people. Bozeman also faces the implied threat that hotels are just too expensive, leading to the loss of some significant Montana sports tournaments. In working on expanding meeting space availability, Bozeman is also working on their standing as a sports destination, which will be a big help in turning the threat of too many hotel rooms into an economic opportunity for hotels and other business owners. As such, the Bozeman DMO is implementing several opt-in programs for hotels and local businesses to create incentive packages in specific target markets. Brianna Wolf, Director of Tourism and Sales, works directly with each hotel to understand their challenges and explain the opportunities to grow in these niche markets. Already 18 local hotels and businesses have signed on to the Southwest Employee Incentive and Activity Package, and many more are honoring special rates for the Montana High School Association. MSU concert promos, MSU football ticket holders, FCS football rates and room blocks, and there will be a Spartan Race promo code for a 3-night stay and local Montana resident rate. So lots of work in that area to combat that perception that Bozeman is unaffordable. The Bozeman Area Chamber of Commerce has established a 10-year partnership with the Spartan Race, which will bring 10,000 individuals to the community annually. They have created a digital meeting planners guide, and sports destination guide is in the works. They've also created a wedding section, which will be implemented as a category on the Visit Bozeman website to help promote Montana as a wedding destination. Preliminary talks have started up again around building a convention center, and they are keeping track of what meetings and tournament businesses are being lost for the lack of meeting space, and looking at the reasons as to why. And last, their focus on international travel will expand for fiscal year 25. And in 2025, we will have a Bozeman specific section at IPW. For fiscal year 24, they'll have a Bozeman specific section at IPW in conjunction with Destination Montana's presence at the conference. So that is the updates that I was provided. So hopefully the other DMOs on the call can answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Robin. Any questions for Robin?
It's Joan. I have a question. Robin, can you repeat the sleeping room number? You reported 2,000 number.
Yes, so Bozeman's hotel rooms are projected to grow from 2,787 that was available in 2023 to 6,000 rooms by 2029. And Brianna is on the call, so she may be able to address that further if you
have. A follow-up question, is that how far out does that reach? Does that include Big Sky or the Gallatin Valley, Bozeman, Belgrade proper?
Go ahead, Brianna.
Oh,
Thank you.
hi, Joan. This is Brianna. So that will be for our Three Forks, Belgrade, and Bozeman area specifically.
Thank you very much.
Brianna, while you're there, I also want to just comment. I heard Robin say something that I think is very positive, that you've got some work being done by volunteers to make sure that Bozeman is affordable to teams and to other events that might perceive it as unaffordable. So I personally would like to offer any kudos for whatever it's worth for the effort to try to make sure that Bozeman stays on the radar of those teams and events and people. So thank you for that work. Any other comments?
This is
I was-
Stephanie Stern. Oh, sorry.
Stephanie,
ahead.
1 second. Nathan, you're up.
Oh, okay. While everyone's through, I have more of a comment and a question. It's kind of consistent that all the regions were facing a low snowpack level. And I know there's time, but I think we need to be realistic. Montana may burn, and it's been owning a resort on the edge of the earth in St. Mary, Montana. I went for a run the other day. There should be no way I should be able to run right now in January. There's a little place called Valier, Montana, and their pinnacle of their tourist season is their Lake Francis Fishing Derby. They have to move it back a month because there's no ice on the water. They might not even have it. But my concern is perhaps all the regions that need to coordinate during the fire season is because even though Montana is the fourth biggest state, tourists don't know that. And they hear fire and they think the entire state's on fire. And I think it discourages them. There might be a fire in Billings, but they'll think it's in Glacier Park. And I think it would behoove us not to coordinate and maybe get out a bigger campaign to to Al Roker and let them know that what parts of Montana are on fire or what aren't on fire, etc. That's my question and comment.
I love the Al Roker plan. I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Nathan, for the comments. I hope everybody was listening, and I have a feeling that our transition from no snow is going to transition into some further challenges for tourism the rest of the season. Stephanie, you had a question?
Yes, hello. Congratulations to Bozeman for getting the Spartan race, but was there an RFP out for that, or how did they get it?
Brianna
Yeah.
Hoffman.
Yeah. Hi, Stephanie. So Daryl and myself connected with Cherie, VP of Spartan, had a couple of conference calls. So they actually reached out to us directly. Historically, it was held at Big Fork in the Kalispell area for the last 10 years. And we're looking at Bozeman as a new destination. So we did not receive a formal RFP through CVent or any other platform. It was more of a direct contact with her.
Outstanding. Congratulations on getting it.
Thank you so much. We're excited.
You should be. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know that Glacier Country is sad to see that go, and it will make a big difference come these spring numbers when we don't have the Spartan race any longer. All right, I'm going to wind up our marketing committee meeting with just a couple comments. I want to circle back to where Racine started us, which was on the question of evaluation. I was hoping to hear a little bit more about evaluations during these reports. So the fact that we didn't, it probably isn't foremost in the minds of the DMOs. So please understand you all know that the systems are changing and there's going to be a lot of differences in how we report information back and forth this coming season. So will you please make sure that the rules and regulations committee members hear your comments about what you want from a reporting structure or a reporting template, or what it is that you see as important to report out. Clearly, we've got these reports in people's minds. Building them, I'm sure, thought that they were all outstanding, but they were very disparate and truly not in a format that was hugely helpful to us as a TAC. So circling back, let's make sure that reporting is on our mind. Work with Barb and members of that Rules and Regs Committee to get your input in so that we can have the best kind of reports out after fiscal years have completed. Is there any other business that needs to come before the Marketing Committee? Or can I stop putting you all to sleep? All right, thank you for your patience, Alicia.
Thank you very much, Mike, and the Marketing Committee and our partners at Commerce and Destination Montana for all of your help there as well. Thank you to the DMOs for your plans, your hard work, and your collaboration on getting those reports together. All right, Haley, I'm gonna hand the floor over, and just a housekeeping note. I didn't say it at the beginning, but please, if you need something to eat, we're not gonna break for lunch or take any formal breaks. So I just take it that you're going to get up and get your tea or coffee or whatever you need to do and rejoin us. So with that, Haley, I'm going to turn it over to you to have Melissa guide us through our research committee report. Haley, you've got the floor.
Alicia did that perfectly because that is my agenda. Turn it over to Haley and then let Melissa guide us. But I am now the chair for the research committee and brand new in this role. We just had a meeting on the 25th of January in which Melissa did bring forth the different research projects that they're looking at within the Institute for Tourism and Recreation Research, trying to define those acronyms, the ITRR. And she brought these forth to our committee. And it's a very healthy slate of projects. I'll let her talk about those. And our committee challenged her as to whether or not her team felt comfortable in completing these within the year, because it's a pretty big bite that they are trying to take in research for the fiscal. And so they gave us their word that this did not feel like too much for them and that they thought it was all attainable. And so with that, Melissa, I'll turn it over to you to talk about some of the projects.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I am in Kalispell, and we're at a new venue that is beautiful, but doesn't have a lot of privacy. So I don't know how this has been done previously, if this is only my second time, but do we want to put a vote out there, a motion, and then we discuss? Is that what we have been doing?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that, Melissa. So on behalf of the committee, I am going to go ahead and move that we approve the plan put forward from ITRR for their fiscal year 25 research projects. And I'll make that motion on behalf of the committee. Is there a second?
This is Saber, I second.
All right, now we can open it to that discussion, Melissa.
Thank you. We are excited about the list of projects that were submitted and then what we scoped down and discussed. I think some things are very timely, thinking about the museum and the paleontology tourism, the meeting and conventions. It's been interesting to hear in the different cities how folks are traveling more for business and kind of packaging that together. And I think Montana has struggled to kind of do research on that. So I think that's exciting. I'm pulling it up. Another project that we've heard a lot about, of course, is the Canyon Ferry. And as a team, we thought we could create a research methodology and survey that other water recreation places could use. I, of course, standing in Kalispell, understand the challenges with the Flathead Lake level. And actually there's a project with our Montana Climate Office with DNRC and the tribe. And I think we're gonna work together on looking at some of the impacts of the low lake. I've heard all of you mention about the low snowpack. I was in the climate office yesterday looking at the drought report, which is all available to you. This will most likely be the worst winter on record if it continues. And so thinking about, those connections and what that looks like. Updating our outfitting industry report. It looks like it's time for that. And then the last study was looking at kind of first-time visitors to Montana's perception. And then if visitors decide not to come to Montana, what are their perceptions and why that is? And I did just see a report come out of Michigan Extension Office that had some similarities with this. So that is kind of our docket of projects. One of the reasons we feel comfortable handling this, we think the state needs a lot of this. We do have some new graduate students coming on, as I have ramped up and gotten more comfortable in this position. And Dr. Bigger in our office is also taking on graduate students. So we feel good about this. I guess thank you for typing in the chat. As we think about these projects, I guess I would just open it up to any questions before we vote.
This is Alicia. I'm just curious, can we get that page 1, the grid up on the screen, Melissa, because I just want to make sure we all know what we're talking about.
I have it up. And when you say the grid, are you meaning the financials?
Yeah, the summary of the budget, because we approved the whole thing.
Yeah. I can do that. I have it up. I can do that if I can. Oh, thank you, Megan. I only have one laptop screen. It really makes life challenging when you don't have 2 or 3 screens. First world problems. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Is it possible to see the whole that whole list down to the bottom? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
I will share, about half of our budget goes towards our research across the state and our surveyors and intercepting visitors and residents. We had a really big survey kit year, which is exciting. Kind of means rural events are coming back.
Melissa, this is Haley. One of the questions that I know came up in committee is specific to the disengagement. So understanding tourist disengagement's influence on Montana tourism. And that one maybe is a little bit abstract because you're not interviewing people that are currently in Montana as you're looking at that research. Can you explain more how you're planning to go about that?
Yeah, and that's a lower price project because of what you just said. I mean, we are going to have to buy a panel from a survey firm, finding people who've either never been to Montana or been to Montana once. I've seen one other consulting firm do something like this. And through those panels, you usually ask people if they haven't been to Montana, if they'd want to be interviewed. And those are short qualitative Zoom interviews that are pretty inexpensive. And we would just ask people what their thought process is, what they think of Montana. I've heard this research is important out of Kalispell, and then we heard from Big Sky too, that, if people come one time and they never come back, why? Is it just Big Sky's on the Icon Pass, or maybe they come to Glacier Yellowstone once and then they're kind of done. So, this is something I do here in probably the more popular regions. However, we know that 75% of our visitors are returned. So we do have very loyal visitors when they come back, but kind of understanding that. And Haley, you bring up good questions. This isn't a research study I've done before, so we'll have to dive into that a little bit more.
Any other questions for Melissa?
No, so Haley, just to clarify for anybody who's new TAC members, we were presented with a slate of research topics that we reviewed as a full board at the October full council meeting. So from there, the research committee was given the go-ahead to work with Melissa and her team to prioritize ones and to put a budget next to them. So that's why this is the slate then that is being presented to the council to act on, to allow ITRR, the Institute of Travel and Tourism Research, just to clarify our acronyms for those attending, to move forward then for fiscal year.
Thank you, Alicia. I think that's, yeah, critical to know. And on my talking tour, I also let people know we have that link on our website that's available all year. So if you think of a research project anytime, just submit it. We had a little over 40 submitted, and then we kind of sift through those in early fall and then present those to the TAC. In addition, our scope of projects are from talking probably to the stakeholder and our TAC members, trying to understand, but know that our new kind of research method is that we do have listening sessions, and we try to really engage the regions and the communities that these might impact. So the scope of the project can really be developed out based on your needs. So you can reach out to me, share contacts, share if you want to be involved in it. Our goal is that we don't decide the research, and we don't like decide exactly what study that we hear from you. So that's also part of the project or part of the process. Thank you, Alicia.
Melissa, can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
When you reference that your 9D about the outfitting industry,
yes.
Is there a way that you can differentiate between fishing and hunting in those questions?
We
Because
have had
what
that
we're
asked,
finding,
and we will. Yeah.
okay, yeah, what we're finding is our numbers, our hunting numbers are substantially down because of outfitting, because they tie up a lot of the private land, which is a huge issue. Versus, I know it's a plus as far as fishing is concerned, but I'd be interested in knowing, you know, the numbers of tags purchased and things in outfitted land versus, you know, or and just in by region. Like I know Region 7 would be an interesting one for me with the FWP, because I think that those numbers would show that there's an issue.
Thank you. That is great information. We have had that already mentioned to us. And as we work on the project, we'll reach out to you and make sure we understand some of those nuances.
Yeah. Well, and you never know.
All right, any more questions or comments for Melissa before we take this to a vote? All right, well, the motion is on the floor to go forward with the committee's recommendation of approving the research projects on your screen as presented by Melissa. It has been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And opposed. All right, motion carries, and that does it for our presentation here from ITRR.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Melissa, and all on your team. We look forward to getting updates on the progress of all of these. Thank you so much, Melissa. All right, we're moving on to Department of Commerce updates and looking to have Jenny and Jamie. I will hand the floor to you with Destination MT updates. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Morning. I will kick it off, and Jamie and I will tag team some of the items. We were asked to touch on a number of things, and just a clarification on the agenda that Coraggio will not be attending and giving an update today, so I will include just a little bit of an update of where we are with that project in my updates now. So just jump in if you have any questions. I'm going to run through topics. And won't really be pausing in between, but happy to answer any questions. So the first item we were asked to report on was the strategic plan, and there's really not anything new to report there from when we presented it. The only item really that we've updated within that strategic plan right now, well, two, is our division name is now, it's the Destination MT plan versus the Brand MT plan, and then also a clarification on the emergency services related goal within that strategic plan. And that's an outcome of Senate Bill 540, where we were to develop an emergency services program. And initially we thought it was going to be a multi-phase program where part of the year, it would be available for natural disaster related type of grants, similar to the floods. And then a second part of the program would be for supporting personnel, equipment, training, that kind of thing for emergency services providers. And we got clarification from the bill author that that's intended to just be for the personnel training and emergency services providers. So that update was made, but also it is posted on brandmt.gov website now under resources tab. And we've posted there as part of our obligation to the Senate Bill 540 guidelines and arms processes. The strategic plan, the marketing plan, and the resiliency plans are all referenced in at least the Regional Assistance Program guidelines. And in several of the programs, the applications will be requesting a tie back to one of those 3 plan areas. So we will be adding in the marketing plan to that webpage when it's available. And then we'll also be adding the regional and the state level resiliency plans to that page as well when they become available. For the arms, like we've mentioned, we are somewhat limited in what we can talk about. Definitely limited when the arms are published and in the comment period. But we are out of the comment period now for pilot and film. Those have completed the arms process, and Jamie will be providing an update on next steps there. The event grant and the regional assistance program are in process, so we can't speak to those guidelines at this point, but we do encourage you to view those guidelines. They are on the tourism grants page at brandmt.gov. And then additionally, a public hearing is scheduled for the regional assistance program on February 29th at 11 a.m. And a gov delivery was sent out on that yesterday with the information for registering for that and the to get the link for that Zoom call. We're also working on getting the public meetings posted on the BrandMT site in case you are not a gov delivery subscriber. You can still get the information of how to attend that meeting. The revolving loan fund program, the agritourism grant program, and then the emergency grant program arms, we are going to have done by the end of the fiscal year. They are in development right now. Agritourism is ahead of the revolving loan fund and the emergency grants, and that will be submitted in the next deadline, followed by revolving loan fund, and then still working on the parameters for the emergency services grant. Another topic, I guess I'll pause there if there are any questions on either the strategic plan or the arms. And I'm working on 2 screens, so I'm not seeing everybody as I'm talking.
Jenny, could you just tell what your acronym is for ARMS, please?
The Administrative Rules of Montana.
Thank you.
Great. I wanted to bring up a new topic for today that kind of relates to the Regional Assistance Program. And that's because when I was developing the parameters for the Regional Assistance Program guidelines, I was reviewing the budget summaries of all of the eligible DMOs. And at that time, I saw that a majority of them had unspent funds left over in their budgets that were unallocated, which raised some questions for me. And then looking further into budgets, I saw that a number of the DMOs across the board had fund balances that were up to even a quarter of their budget or more. So I wanted to explore this a little bit more and what the various dynamics might be that led to having these fund balances in the partner budgets. And since we all budget on projections, which is basically, our best guesses at what we're predicted to earn, but they always change because we don't have any snow or there's a fire, or, we all know the variables to that. I definitely wanted to look into the projections process. For one, the process is really time intensive for Barb, and it's also reliant on the insights from the directors around the state. And some of that is in areas where we're seeing a lot of turnover in leaders. So those insights are really reliant on people having been there long enough to know and to see patterns and things like that. And they're definitely based on human brain power. And that's really different than how we do it at a division level. So for our projections here at Destination MT, we use a data-based model that calculates for the percent that we expect to earn per quarter, and also use predictive data for what we think the earnings will be and the cost of rooms and everything moving forward. And it also factors in for delinquencies and delays. And so that allows us to really go back and plug in to that model throughout the year to see, like, how are things changing? Are we earning at the percentage that we expected to earn that quarter? And it allows us to adjust our budget pretty accurately and pretty quickly, which we do. We usually do a budget adjustment on our end in around December. So I asked Barb and Pat to look into a similar database model for the regions and the CBB budget projections. And now we have one that seems to be testing out really accurately. So with this, I'd like to remove the process from being an entirely human powered one and reduce some of Barb's workload, and also provide that model, that data-based projections process to the regions and the CBBs so that we can provide them updated numbers more frequently. And again, that would allow us also to use future predictive numbers. Right now, that projection model uses 2 current fiscal year amounts and 2 previous fiscal year quarter amounts. And then hopefully this can create some more predictability in the projections, and then fine-tune numbers so that you can adjust your budgets based on those. So similarly, we would want to be able to say, you earn 40% of your budget generally between the months of July and September, let's say. So we can meet at the end of that quarter and say, did you hit that 40% mark? Are you way above? Are you way below? And start making adjustments that way to the budget. So what I would like to propose is that we could provide those updated projection numbers quarterly to the partners, and then still hold a mid-year check with Barb like we do now to bring in that human logic component with the data. So that's where it'd be important to say, well, the data is showing this, but we also know we have no snow. And there are other things that can come up locally that may not be reflected 100% in that model, so that we can make confident budget adjustments this time of year without saying, okay, well, we're making our best informed guess on this. You want to go 5% up or 10% up or down, and try to get ahead of this so that we all know, or you all know, what you're working with more real time in the budget year, so we don't get to the end of the budget year and see that there's a big fund balance there. So we would like to start using this model this month when providing your future projections, which is the same timing as we've done in the past. Additionally, it appears in looking at this that a number of the partners ultimately rely on the auditing process to calculate what their previous year's final ending fund balance was. So for instance, the DMO might discover through the auditing process that we're just completing now and voting on that they had $50,000 unallocated. So this is beyond money that they might say, we knew we had this left over and we have plans for it, and here are the plans, we're going to put it into the next budget. This is just cash on hand that's not earmarked for anything. But they wouldn't find out that they had $50,000, let's say, in last year's budget until this fiscal year when the audit is done. And so they roll it over into their future plan, but the cycle is continuous. And I'm bringing this up because with SB 540, and we're in the same situation of we have to spend our budget in the year that we're allocated it, and there are a lot of eyeballs on it. But then also the implementation of the RAP program. We want to be really sure that the DMOs, especially the DMOs that are receiving RAP funds, are spending down their budgets in the year that they are earning them. I have some concerns with the attention that SB 540 is going to get, and the fact also that this RAP program shares a line with the loan program, that there will be eyeballs on budgets. And so I want to try to get ahead of that. And also just for good accounting purposes, be managing our budgets as closely as we can so that there aren't those unspent dollars at the end of each fiscal year. So that's my ultimate ask, is that we could work with the TAC and help the partners manage and spend their fiscal year budgets within the fiscal year they're allocated. And then again, move away from the audit being part accounting and ultimately have those audits be about compliance. And then when they're done, we can see that the previous fiscal year budgets were spent efficiently and as close to zero as possible.
Thank you,
Are there any
Jenny.
questions on that?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I want to open it up to the DMOs to ask questions, thoughts, comments, questions.
And we have Pat in the room too. So if you have questions about how the model works, he's there to answer those as well.
Just to clarify, Jenny, that basically instead of receiving, well, we will still receive information from Barb. It's just that the information that we are receiving is based on this modeling. But we're still having, as you mentioned, that human component to it in that example.
Yep, correct. Yeah, we would still, like I said, provide the
it's gonna come
projections.
from Pat, right? So in this instance, then the information will start to come out from Pat and you guys, right? Is my understanding. So I can get that to you so that you can get that out to them. Is that correct?
I was talking over you at the beginning of the question, Barb.
Okay. And I guess we can figure that out later. I was just gonna say that my understanding is that then the projections and such are gonna come from you guys, not from me so much anymore. So I can get the information to you guys to get those projections out, is what I was wondering and saying. So I just want to clarify that the projections won't be coming from me, they'll be coming from like the business side, or is all. So I just want to clarify that it's not coming from me, it's coming from you guys.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by you guys, but we will work. Pat is ready to run the models. He's been running them already to test them out. And so within the same framework, the same procedures that you all have worked before to get your budget projections, Pat will work with Barb to get those projection numbers to her using a database model, and everything will flow as it has.
It'll still come from you, from Pat.
Yeah, it'll come. Barb and I will be working together. I don't know exactly which email it'll be coming from or at that level, but yeah, we're working together as a team. And Brenda, just to flesh out an answer to your question, yes, exactly. It's a model based on data inputs at the Department of Commerce level. We're already using Smith travel reports, air DNA estimates for what's occurring with short-term rentals and hotel stays, and which obviously leads into the lodging tax. But as with any model, it's an estimate based on the data, and we still will need and want your input of activities going on, and challenges or accelerators occurring at each DMO or regional level. I have a meeting with Barb and the fiscal and leadership team tomorrow to go over and kind of finalize some of the details of the model, but that's at a high level the approach that we've taken.
Hi, this is Brad. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Brad.
Hi, Brad from Big Sky. Just a couple comments. Jenny, I think specifically, I mean, I'm guilty of carrying a rather large snowball in my budget, but we're working through it. But that's definitely a result of COVID in that we've our collections far, exceeded what was planned. So it's taken a couple of years to move through these funds. So in our case, we will be moving that through with hopefully clearing everything up by May and move those dollars on. I think the other just comment would be some standardization. And as you guys roll this out in the budget and gaining information back from us, just like Mike's comments earlier in that feedback from the audit procedures and things like that, I think some standardization of forms, be it in accounting and how we give you information, likewise to how DMOs share feedback back up to the TAC as well as then to brand MT, that it's this random kind of moving target, or I don't know how much information to share. I was just asked as you guys go through this process, if we could come up with a standardization of like, if it's an accounting report that you're asking for, build it out for me so I know exactly what you want. And I can give you the most accurate information. That would be my only request. And I realize that puts a burden on you folks, but with all of us, we'll send you everything you want, but at the same time, you want it in a formalized manner. So thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, I mean, this is not a punitive or anything discussion, because we've all been in the same boat. Obviously, COVID created a big fund balance for us before going into last legislative session. This is more of a, how can we be most efficient? How can we reduce the personnel burden and perhaps be more accurate then, because it's database, and obviously we'll be making adjustments because, like I said before, there's some things that data just can't capture. But then just reiterating that I am also trying to do this proactively to say, some of the budgets, it's a quarter of their budgets or more that weren't spent. And because of Senate Bill 540 and that RAP program, I'm just trying to be predictive of what the legislature might look at, where they've never really looked at regional or CBB budgets before. But now there's a regional assistance program in there in a line that shares a really big pot of money. And so that combined of saying, let's make sure that we're spending our budgets down in the fiscal year that we get them, so that we're not creating any unnecessary risk. And I also realize that there are extenuating circumstances in other budgets too, where they didn't have a staff person on or something like that, so they weren't able to spend the money. And similarly with our budget, there are things that we have to explain to people of, well, that we don't actually have that money. It's in contract, we're rolling it over. But on paper, it looks like we have a big fund balance and things like that. So we all understand it. But the bottom line is, how can we be most efficient and most prudent with our budgets in the fiscal year that we have them?
Barb, Nealon, go ahead. Hi, Jenny. I just want to make sure that we can be using these projections the same way that we have always used the projections from the state. And I guess what I'm saying is that we still have the ability, no matter what the projection is from the state, to be able to set our budgets where we believe that they should be from our end. That doesn't change, right?
Nothing about the authority or anything changes. We're just trying to be able to give you more information to inform.
And I appreciate that, because that's the way that we actually come to our own projections internally, is pretty much with the same data that you're talking about. So it would be really nice to be able to see how they match up, and to go from a more database aspect. So thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Brenda, go ahead.
Yes, just a real quick question. What would be the recommended, I mean, everyone, I'm going to back this up. 8 years ago, when I started in this position, we did a relatively large budget reduction, which tends to make people a little gun shy. But how, in terms of, balancing that with, as Brad was mentioning, getting that COVID money, and what our new normal is going to be in terms of collections. But if we're, right now we can put 20% into opportunity, what would be a suggested, kind of cushion for those of us who have a lot more volatility maybe in our budgets. And we're seeing, as I talked about earlier, lower occupancy rates, even though ADR is flat. We're going down.
I don't know if you're asking me that or if you're asking the TAC that. I don't have a recommendation of what it is, and I think it would vary by area. In terms of like what the volatility is, and maybe some areas are more predictive than other areas, but we see, my understanding is that you budget to 95%. Is it 95%? So there's already a 5% cushion built into your budget. My hope is that by providing more frequent updates using the model, that you'll be able to see where you are in relationship to your earnings. And so you'll be able to make budget adjustments if you see that you're really far behind or really far ahead of that. So I'm hoping that provides enough information, because I think we all have a tendency to go conservative because none of us want to be in the red at the end of the fiscal year. But then the flip side of that is that we all have an ending fund balance instead. And so let's say we have a average of 30-ish million allocation. We always have budgeted to have a $1 million fund balance as our cushion moving forward. So if you want to, like, percentage wise, I don't know if that would even be valuable, just because I don't know all of the dynamics that all of you are facing in your individual earning areas and budgets. But we feel like that gives us enough cushion, and it's an acceptable amount to the legislature to help cover us for if there happens to be a wildfire in the last quarter of the fiscal year or something, that we're expecting to get that money brought in, but we don't. We have that built-in cushion.
Yeah, so my question actually was to you, Jenny, and I think that does help. But kind of back to your comment about thinking that SB 540 is going to bring a lot more curiosity to budgets and rollover allocations. With that, will there be opportunity, and maybe this is in the completion reports, but those are 6 months apart, to, I don't want to say justify, but to explain, as you said, maybe there is a shortage of staff and those sort of things. Is that something we should be, I mean, we already plan on it, but that should be more in the forefront?
Yeah, so I can't say that for sure there's going to be a ton more attention paid to everyone's budgets, but I'm just being cautious of that. And I think we're all in agreement that it's a good idea to spend our fiscal year budgets in the fiscal year that we earn them. My hope is that by meeting more, providing more information along the way, that we'll have better insights into your budgets throughout the year too, which would make me better informed if I'm in front of the legislature answering questions on this too. Additionally, I think there's going to be changes in the procedures around the marketing budgets anyways, just because of the changes in the SOP and what the committees have authority to do. So I think that's a further conversation with TAC of how do we work with TAC to be most helpful all together, so that we're all managing our budgets and aware of each other's budgets as we go through a fiscal year, instead of just midway, we make a big adjustment to budgets potentially, and then in December of the year following the closure of the budgets, we know how much you had the end of the previous fiscal year. Like, that's definitely a situation I don't want to be in, going into the audits next December and finding out that a number of DMOs had a quarter of their budget unspent, and then the legislature starts January 2nd or whatever. So I think we're on the same page there. I don't have an answer of how that process works, because it's going to have to be something that's done in conjunction with TAC.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Jenny. We're going to continue, Jenny, with Diane. Hello, Diane.
Hi. A lot of my questions have been answered. Thank you, Jenny. I do applaud having a more data-driven approach to assisting us with our revenue projections, and having some more frequent information would be really helpful. I think we already talked about it, but there certainly are reasons for having an ending fund balance, and it will be helpful to have some recommendations on kind of what percent of budget is an acceptable ending fund balance, because with different situations that occur in the Q3 or Q4, it can be difficult to spend that down without running the risk of overspending.
Right. Yeah, and this is another difference between how you all budget and get approvals versus how we do. And so something that's helpful for us as we're nearing the end of the fiscal year, that if we know we have $2 million, we're going to reserve 1 million. That is our cushion that we always do, but we still have $1 million that we intend to roll over into a project. We actually have to have a contract signed and in place in order to move that money forward. And so it is, I guess, in writing that's allocated to something, and we have a contract in place for it. So that helps us with our budget reporting and then what appears and how we can justify it to the legislature too. I don't think there's something like that in place with TAC, aside from, the adjustments that are made and then a commitment that it will be spent the next fiscal year. But I don't think we actually know how it's going to be spent until you see that next marketing plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Robin, go ahead.
Yeah, Diane already asked the question, but I'll just reiterate, because I'm thinking across the board for all the DMOs and what, a variance there is in our budgets. So knowing what would be an acceptable percentage to have as an ending fund balance, would be, even if it's a range or if it's a solid specific, like 5%, whatever that might be. But having that, I think, would help DMOs to know exactly kind of where they can budget and how conservative they need to be, or can they, go out on a limb a little bit. So just reiterating, it would be great to know, if the eyes are on us, what is an acceptable budget? And I'll use my own for an example. So if my budget is $3 million and I had uncommitted funds in 300,000, well, that's a pretty small amount in comparison to my budget. But is 300,000 considered too much of an uncommitted funds to roll over to the next fiscal year? So it'd be great to know that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to work, but at the direction of Alicia and perhaps the marketing committee, or however you want to direct that, since ultimately the TAC has authority over your budgets and what's acceptable and not acceptable, but we're here to provide information or any insights that we can.
Yeah, and those are great questions, because like you all, the TAC is not informed as we go through the year what it is you have unspent. We only see requests for new funds. So I think it will be helpful for all of us to help each other and work through that. And yes, Jenny, I will take you up on that invitation to have the marketing committee chair get meetings on. Sarah Bannon, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say that, one thing that seems to be kind of a little bit difficult is, and nothing we can do about it, but our fiscal year ends right in the middle of our season, our major seasons. And so our last fiscal year, where we put in, in the spring, all our marketing dollars and things, well, those dollars, really apply all the way through most of December. And so we're having to split. And so it's creating issues where we're not getting accurate information then if we're stopping everything right in the middle of our season. And there are things that we do that, we'll start a project and it doesn't finish maybe until September. Well, and we apply those funds back to that fiscal year, but it's not seen because the fiscal year ends right there. So the funds going to that fiscal year are really understated if you only look at that fiscal year, July to June.
Yeah, the timelines are complicated everywhere. I mean, we're in the same boat, just the timing of the marketing planning itself. We're trying to adjust that to bring it forward. more so that we can be more coordinated, but we can't get around that fiscal year end and the timing of when our peak seasons are. We're in the same boat that way, where our biggest spending time of year is the end of the fiscal year, because we're also purchasing all of the warm season stuff that ends at September in this current fiscal year as well. Which always makes it a little scary. Like, that was the biggest thing when COVID hit, because COVID hit at a time where we were spending money and the earnings just stopped there. So that's where having a little bit of a cushion comes into play to help for any unforeseen things. And I just there's no way around that fiscal year piece right now. I mean, I don't see it ever changing. I don't know if there's a way to change it in the planning timelines or anything like that, or anticipating the costs, like you can pay for X amount out of this fiscal year and then cover the remaining costs for what you need to in the next fiscal year. But there's always a risk there that earnings won't come in at the rate that you're expecting to.
But then your numbers are a little bit off too. Like, I think about even, we place all our advertising, and it's for the whole summer and the fall, and we have a call center. So our call center is taking calls all the way, really, and I've been putting it through October now, just that apply to that warm season. And so I'm going to split it, but my numbers for the call center then are not going to match our advertising if we have to stop it right then. I usually like to apply it so it's more accurate information they're getting. It's the budget numbers that are kind of off then. So I'm not even, I'm not quite sure how to do that. Are we saying that we cannot apply any funds now after this fiscal year in the July, August, September?
No, that's really not what I'm saying. Because I think from what I'm seeing in budgets right now, and I hope I understand your dilemma here, that there are certainly a number of circumstances where the DMO knows that they're going to have an ending fund balance, and they work with TAC and say, we want to adjust our budgets and do this, and we're going to hold these dollars because we have a project that's coming up that's going to roll over into the next fiscal year. And that's all accounted for. But what we're seeing at the auditing piece is that even in those circumstances where it's been communicated with TAC and approved that we're going to use X number of dollars this fiscal year for costs that come next fiscal year, there is still a large amount of cash that's not earmarked for anything. That's the cycle that we want to get out of, and make sure that you are aware of what you're going to have and put those plans in place and work with TAC. And you don't have to do accruals like we do, as far as I know, but make sure that we have a plan for those dollars so that we can get out of this cycle of having unspent, unearmarked cash that's rolling over from year to year to year.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Laney, go ahead, John.
I think this is a question more, and I don't know if we can do this, but I'd like to kind of quiz Barb about something, if that is possible.
Ask away, John.
Go ahead. Okay. And Jenny, you just kind of touched on it a bit. I'm curious if we had the ability to accrue versus carryover, or maybe we do and I just don't know it. But I'm thinking if we get notified in May that, hey, look, based on what I see off your QuickBooks, you're going to be carrying versus our collections, you're going to be carrying over a balance. If we can put that into action at that point in time and potentially accrue the funds ahead of time versus carrying over into our next year's fiscal year. I understand we'll have to come back to the marketing people, but again, we're doing nothing more than putting that money into our next year's and going over with the marketing people anyway. Is that a possibility, or am I barking up the wrong tree?
I would be happy to visit with you regarding your financial positions in May, I feel like you would probably have a better idea of what you're doing and how you're spending your funds than I would. But I'd be happy to chat with anybody that would like some help understanding that, for sure. I'd be happy to.
Well, I think that's where we get off is that audit piece. We end up with money that from collections versus projections, maybe, so to speak. And that's the gap. I mean, it'd be different for other people, but mine would be little enough that I could deal with it in a fairly timely fashion. But yeah, that'd be great. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's really getting to what the crux that I was saying. If we can provide these numbers quarterly, then John, you can go back into your own budgeting and say, oh, by the end of March, April, I expected to have earned 80% of what I'm going to earn for the year. And if you're at 95% by that time, then you need to start looking forward to how you're going to spend that money before the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Because right now we're just not doing that check-in. And maybe you all are, maybe all of your accounting is a little different from each other. I don't know. But doing a budget adjustment mid-year, and then we have an incredible late winter, early spring, then everybody's going to have extra money. So that's the cycle that we're trying to get out of, is being more informative as we go along, but also more predictive of, aside from the unforeseen things like a fire or a flood or something like that, to say based on what we know and based on all these different market factors, we think that this is where you're going to be at this time of the year.
Thank you, John. Jenny, we've got a question from Mike.
I'm not sure if my question is best for Jenny or Pat, but I really am excited about the fact that we have an opportunity to put some science or some data-driven decisions in place for these budgets. And I think that's great. However, if it were me sitting in a DMO office, I would like to be able to run the model myself and do it often, or do it more often than it probably is necessary. So my question is Pat, is it portable? Is the model portable, and could it be used outside of your office, or is it complicated enough that might not be a good idea?
No, functionally speaking, Mike, it should be not an issue to share how the model works, and just as a Excel spreadsheet essentially to export it. It's beyond my purview to say, if we want to share it with everyone, I'll defer to Jenny on that, but functionally speaking, it should be no issue.
Yeah, I am not the model builder. So, I mean, the goal is for people to be informed and be able to do their accounting. And I just don't know if there are any factors within the model that might change the model. So if we meet with Department of Revenue and they're like, well, we have this problem, and so we're going to be delayed, or we're going to see this level of delinquency, but it's abnormal, or if there's something that pops up that changes the model, that those who are using it are also, that model is updated on their end too.
Yeah, so then it also sounds like too, because the TAC has never really allowed DMOs to have a fund balance carryover like the state does. So if that's something, because of fear of legislators looking at that, right? I think we're limited with opportunity funds and such like that. So if Destination MT is allowed X amount that's approved by the legislature, I think it would behoove the Rules and Procedures Committee to take a look too at what we do with the DMOs. If that sounds hopeful to anybody, any of the DMOs, because if that's a best practice with Jenny, how you run your department, then maybe we can look at something too for the DMOs, so it's not viewed as necessarily punitive and there's a little bit more of a cushion. We just erred on the side of trying to get it reduced down, and COVID created overages for most everybody. But I think this reporting too helps the TAC, because we see nothing really, and just because it just hasn't been done. So I think all moving forward, we're gonna be learning together and learning what we can do and help you all manage your budgets the best we can. And if there's concerns from the DMO about planning and budgeting and concerns about year to year, please reach out to your regional TAC representative or other DMOs that seem to have it, you know, dialed in. So Sarah, you know, maybe reach out to some others that you trust that maybe can be helpful too. Reach out to me, Mike, and we can help you as well. All right, Jenny, I don't see any more hands at the moment. I'll leave a moment for comments. This was a big subject. And so what is the timeline, Jenny, you're looking at for that? We've got a question up in Destination MT's office, but Jenny, what is the timeline you're looking to start this?
It's the same timeline as I believe you guys have used before, where we're ready to run the model. We've run the numbers now. I mean, it's all there. And we would provide that to Barb to work with you and how she's provided those projected numbers in the past. So it's in the same timeline as it's always been for providing the projected budgets to the partners for their planning.
Great, thank you. We'll toss it to Destination MT.
Okay, well, that was great conversation. But so I have a couple items and then one more item and then I'll hand it off to Jamie. And that's just on that resiliency piece. So initially, Coraggio was supposed to be done with all of this in December, and we've had some delays with them. And also on the state side, wanted to make sure that we had representation from all the voices that we wanted to have at the table. And so that caused some additional delay in order to get more voices in the room. So we extended our agreement with them to be done in February. And so the state level planning is still in the works with one final feedback session being scheduled right now, and then it'll go into its final design. The regional booklets and final design on that has taken a really long time, and Coraggio is finishing all of that right now. And I would anticipate that those regional booklets are final by mid-February. Like I mentioned before, as soon as those are in their final form, we're going to be posting them online as a requirement with the guidelines that we're also posting for our new programs. In terms of implementation, and the reason why I didn't have Coraggio present anymore today is because there isn't any new information available right now until we get that state level plan done. And I want to make sure that the state planning committee has a chance to review that before Coraggio reports out on what's in it, because it's not final yet. But we are looking forward to what does implementation look like for resiliency. And if you recall, we were proxy for $2.9 million that was allocated to the state from EDA, Economic Development Authority. And we used half of that for this planning component, and then half of it was reserved for funding implementation. And the way that this has rolled out, and with the strength that I'm seeing behind the regional plans and the energy and the buy-in by the regions, both the planning group level, but also with the boards for the DMOs, where they're voting on priorities and their strategic planning around the resiliency priorities, et cetera. I would like to plan to focus our implementation so that phase 2 dollar amount, that second 1.4, I think 1.4, $1.5 million on financially supporting the regional plan implementation. So that would be more of a dispersing of those dollars to the region leads to work with their networks on the implementation. And I think that for some that might be like, oh, that's awesome, we put so much into this, I'm glad that we're going to have financial support to see it moving forward. For others, I think they're like, oh God, this is federal money. We've had federal COVID response money before. So what I want to do is hold visioning calls with the regional leads to say how do you want this to look for you all? I've been in discussions with EDA on how this could work, and definitely wanted to have a better understanding of what the administrative requirements would be on the regions. I know that some were concerned about the audit function of it. because it was a complicated scenario with CARES. And we don't need to get into it, but if you were in it like we were, you know what I'm talking about. I did get some clarity from them that in order to be subject to that single line audit from the feds, you would have to have spent as a single entity over $750,000 in federal funds annually, and that's from all sources. At 1.5 million, the disbursement would be under that. So unless you have a significant amount of other federal funds that you spend outside of us, you probably wouldn't have to do that single line audit, which I think would be a relief for some people. The way that we're looking at it right now, it would probably most likely be a sub-grantee relationship where all of the reporting would be to me and not to the feds. So there are several things to work out. That's why I want to have these visioning calls to see, get input from the regional leads. There is flexibility within this for hiring, so for personnel and for contracting for services. That's at our discretion. And then just a note that the funds, regardless of how we do this implementation, the obligation for these ARPA funds, through the EDA, is that they have to be spent by May of 2026. So there's a little bit of time, but if these are going to be infrastructure type projects or things like that, we really need to get moving on them when the plans are final and posted. In terms of our work with Coraggio, right now, we're really focusing on keeping to a timeline for completion of their duties, and then our relationship with them will end. They will have met their scope for this agreement, and then we are not looking to procure any future resources for implementation on our end at this time. Are there any questions for me on that piece?
Yes, Jenny, it's Alicia. One question. Will monies be taken out for any implementation of Destination MT working on the statewide roll-up plan? Will there be anything set aside for Destination MT to roll out some initiatives or help with that?
Perhaps. I need to see what this final plan looks like before I could say what we're going to reserve or how that's going to go. I mean, I know there's a piece in there of hiring a coordinator to run that, but we haven't really gotten to the point of deciding, is that a coordinator that rests with Commerce, or is that a coordinator that rests with Chamber of Commerce? Or there's a lot of different possibilities out there that I can't guess at until I see what that plan is and it's agreed to. There is flexibility to retain some of that money though, but it would only be through 2026. And that's another thing. If we can hire a temporary personnel person, but they would be, that would end with funding potentially.
Thank you. Anybody else who has questions about that, please put their hand up. All right, thank you, Jenny.
So that was it for my updates. I'll hand it over to Jamie for her updates.
Thank you, everybody. I will go quickly just to try to get us closer to our end date. Just a quick update on the Governor's Conference, April 14th through the 15th. If you haven't registered, please do so. It's shaping up to be fantastic. Last day to register is going to be April 1st. Let's see, we're also new this year. We're offering student discounts to college students as well as educators. Trying to build that in, and possibly in future years we'll tie that in more with workforce development. 40% of our attendees that have registered thus far are brand new to the conference, so that's pretty darn exciting. Also, we'll follow up in terms of one of our general sessions as we kind of figure out our plan, like Jenny said, in terms of implementation strategies for resiliency. I know a lot of you are doing some really great strategic planning work and resiliency work. So we would like to entertain the idea of having our regional leads and or CVBs to come in and do a general session and just talk about a big scope planning that you all are doing, what you're visioning for your regions and how that all ties in together. So Alana will be sending out an invite to kind of probably a doodle poll to see if anybody's interested, what the availability would be, because we think that as we're gonna move forward, this is gonna be a really important conversation and of interest to many parties. And also we're working on planning the regional rendezvous, which I'm really excited about that as well. Made in Montana, they are currently accepting Retailer of the Year Award nominations. Alex has a link for that she can share in the chat. And just quickly, I will just rattle off some dates for you guys to just kind of have an FYI in the know. She'll also post a link to the guidelines as well in the chat. But just so you know, we're looking at February 10th, pilot guidelines become effective if everything continues on the path that they're on now. February 15th, the event grant will have a public hearing. February 23rd, last day for event guidelines, public comment. February 27th, events should file adoption. February 29th, public hearing for RAP. March 8th is the last day for public comment on the RAP. And hopefully, if all things go well, April 7th will be the effective date for RAP. Effective date for events is tentatively March 9th. And as these, these things become effective, we are planning for a swift rollout. So as we get to that point, we'll be able to have more conversations, but that's my quick and fast update for you all.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you. Questions for Jamie? That was a lot of dates. So it looks like it's just been posted in the chat. Oh, it's the Made in Montana, but I think Jamie, you mentioned that the other dates will be posted so we can have those in writing in the chat. Thank you. Allison with the Montana, the film office. Please, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. The film office, as you know, the centers are busy season. We've just returned from the Sundance Film Festival, where we invited over 700 people to interact with us at open houses and events, and which were very successful. We heard from filmmakers wanting to film in Southwest Montana, specifically Whitehall, so that was interesting. And then we're also working with a filmmaker. We've been scouting pretty heavily in the Hardin area, so we're looking to bring in some more Eastern Montana locations to the screen. So with that, our next festival pieces become the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival coming up in the Missoula area. We have Flick in Polson coming up. And then, of course, we have the International Wildlife Film Festival later in the spring. We also attend South by Southwest, which is in Austin, Texas. So we're going to be looking at the industry as it comes out of both COVID and dual Writers Guild, Screen Actors Guild strikes, which has put a pretty big dent in the industry. For Montana specifically, we don't see the immediate effects, but we see the rollover effects. One of those effects that you're seeing, for those of you who have 1923 and Yellowstone filming in your areas, we're looking at 1923 is still on the boards but delayed. And then Yellowstone, of course, is slated to be filming this year as tentatively as 1923. Right now, it's only Yellowstone that we've seen from the trades has a green light and is specifically ramping up to go. We are also under some pressure from economic programs in other states that are specifically targeting the success that you guys have helped those two programs build. So we're going to see how those things work up. So we've seen a decrease in approximately 40 to 60 projects from 2021 through 2022 into 2023. So it is not your imagination that you have not had as many film crews in your towns, because we've seen the numbers drop off also. The multi-month-long strike with IATSE and the Writers Guild and SAG has not been helpful for our little independent world of Montana. However, our inquiries have never been higher. So it's an interesting dichotomy. Our new location coordinator, Dan Malloy, has been out in the field several times. I know he's met with some of you. We look forward to putting him out in the field even further. We also have in the Billings area, for those who assisted with a feature called Blood for Dust, that starred Kit Harington from Game of Thrones. That film is in the edges of being theatrically released, and we're hoping that we can bring it to some theaters near you. So that was a nice 1980s kind of action thriller film that filmed in and around the Billings area. And other news that is amazing, Lily Gladstone, who's one of our Montana actresses, received a Golden Globe for her work in Killers of the Flower Moon, which was filmed in Oklahoma. She's also been nominated for an Academy Award, the first Native American woman to be nominated for that ever. So that's history making, fantastic. And you know, that doesn't happen without a village. Many of you have had many small independent films with Lily in them over the years in your towns. Whitefish, Havre, Missoula, and the list goes on, and all that work has helped to contribute. So, you know, all of your guys' work rolls up all the time with our filmmakers. And then the other thing, also 1923 was nominated for a Golden Globe too. So we have lots of publicity with that. And we are looking forward to launching our Big Sky Film Grant, which is also coming out of the ARMS processes. And we're hoping to have those applications up and running very soon. So if you need to go see a film in a festival that's happening in Montana, let me know. We do sponsor those festivals. We have passes and tickets, and we can assist you. And then a big shout out to Missoula, Destination Missoula, who of course helps with Big Sky Doc immensely. So that's our update, and any questions?
Thank you, Allison. I'm just looking for hands up or people coming off mute for questions. That is exciting that you are having all the inquiries, kind of a rush of inquiries. I hope they turn into projects for all of our regions and CVBs. Hello, Mitch. It's good to see you with marketing and communications with Department of Commerce. I'll go ahead and turn the mic over to you, Mitch. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that? I'm going to make that bigger. Do you see that?
Yes, you got it.
Excellent. So I'm excited to get to share some updates from the Marcom team from the Department of Commerce specific to our plans for warm season 24. We have just a quick update on where we're at with agency of record onboarding. We had all the new agencies of record. Several of them are on the call. I can see several of them have joined to listen in here this morning. So welcome to Medium Giant, who is our new medium buying partner that was selected to the AOR or RFP process, and Windfall for creative and web. Many of you are familiar with Windfall, so excited to have Windfall officially on board as the AOR. And then Lawrence and Schiller is also on the call from, they're out in South Dakota, and they have the data and research contract with the state. So we rely on them for a lot of our research, and we've been working fast and furious over the last month and a half together to get contracts in place, to get planning in place, and you can imagine all of the many parts and pieces to that the marketing team has been dealing with. So that said, I think it's a pretty amazing feat that what I'll be able to share with you today is exciting, and hopefully it's setting the pace for how we'll continue to work as we continue to get to know the new agencies and how that mix works together. So I wanted to start us off just on behalf of the team and everyone that's worked so hard on the last warm season campaign with a quick recap. We have some new data and information that I think you'll all be interested in seeing. So as you can remember, this last warm season got started in June, so it was late rolling out. it was different. I've heard our friends from Windfall say we were kind of showing the world a new Montana, a different Montana that we hadn't shown a lot, at least from the state marketing angle. So that focus Eastern and rural, right, that came out of 540, that we're really being asked to focus on pushing people out to more untraveled and lesser known locations in the state. The new campaign we rolled out, That's How You Montana. And we used existing assets from previous campaigns to do it. So all of that to say, it was a lot that happened in a short amount of time and with not perfectly ideal circumstances to do it. So just a reminder, here's kind of what the campaign looked like. Many of you probably saw this in your own social media feeds or other browsing. You probably saw some of this targeted at you. So hopefully you saw it at least. I know I did. I know my in-laws saw it because every time they saw it, I was notified that they were looking at our stuff, which was awesome. And they're in Idaho, so they're technically our target audience. So that was great to also confirm that they were getting it. So here's just another little taste of what the That's How You Montana season for FY23 looked like. So we have some stats. How did it perform? I'm sure you're all wondering, how did this work out? So working with future partners, which, as you know, is destination analysts. Now their new name is Future Partners. We have a report to give us a little insight of how this worked. So first of all, we asked a few questions. Did the campaign inspire our audience to visit? So did this different look of Montana inspire people still to come here? Which audiences did it impact the most? And what was the ultimate ROI for the state? And I'm excited to report that the results are really impressive. Especially when you consider this is from a timeline of June to October. So a fairly short window that actually this campaign was out getting exposed. So of those who visited Montana during the warm season that said they interacted or saw our campaign, 83% of them said it influenced their decision and the decisions that they made to visit the state. So that's incredible. Who did it impact though? So nearly 3/4 of those who saw a Montana warm season ad said they were more likely to visit Montana for leisure in the next 18 months. Okay, so who reacted the best to it? Who responded the best to it? Turns out that people who were family aware, had the best reaction to what they saw to that warm season campaign. And they're indicating that they're likely to visit over the next 18 months. But pretty much all these audiences that we're showing, so educated, winter enthusiasts, and then our general target audience for warm season visitor, the Montana target traveler, all pretty high performance. So they saw the new Montana, this new look, Eastern rural, different than the historic, Glacier National Park, Yellowstone National Park, which are still incredibly important to our economy. But we showed a little bit different in our creative this time. Still, the audiences that we targeted still very much so responding to that and saying it's influencing their decisions. So that's the good news, especially as we go forward and give you a preview of what warm season 24 is going to look like. But a little bit more on the data. I'm sure you're all wondering, how did this do and what was its impact to the state's economy? You're all probably familiar with sort of this equation of how we get to this point to be able to show some numbers and figures here, but just wanted to show it really quick on the screen in case you're not. But let's look at the numbers. So in total, we can draw that 156,301 incremental trips to Montana were generated from June to October 2023 from that warm season campaign. That's very impressive. We're excited to be able to report that, especially when we're able to tell you what the campaign spend was and what the return looked like. So we spent $5.2 million on that warm season campaign. The total impact to Montana's economy, $362 million. So that's for every dollar that we spent, we returned $68.43 to Montana's economy. And then the tax return, $3.70 for every dollar. So we're excited to say the warm season 23, even with stuff being delayed and getting out late, still performed very well. And we're excited for what's next because we're going to build on it. So what is next? Our focus is on facilitation. So it's about making it easy, especially as we talk about new audiences or new we will talk about some new audiences, but new destinations too in Montana, not only the anchors like Glacier and Yellowstone, but what's out east, what's in the rural areas of the state that people are less familiar with. So as we show them that, we are going to focus on facilitating that. And we'll kind of talk a little bit how we're going to do that too. Dispersion. So getting people out from those anchors, maybe we can help influence them to extend their stay or see something different that they hadn't thought about in coming to Montana. So dispersion and conversion. So not just clicks or impressions, we're going to look really at a more granular level with our KPIs in this warm season campaign and be able to show what did they actually do? What did we motivate them to do? If we placed media, we want to know what we expect the result to be from that placement. We want to actually be able to measure what happened when people saw our ads, our campaign out there in the wild. So we're really going to focus on these things. So let's talk about some newer audiences. The first one that we'll highlight is on-the-go families. So these are people aged 35 to 49. They have an average 65,000 or higher household income. They do usually have children, but they're a little bit older, 9 to 17 years of age. So as we talk about Montana as the lens of Montana as a road trip and the stops along the way, especially as we ask people to visit our rural and eastern areas, we know what that means as Montanans is that means you're going to spend some windshield time. And so you probably will do that with a little older kid than my 2-year-old would be able to sustain across the state. Although she did really great last summer going from Dillon to Miles City and Glendive and back. And we even built in South Dakota into that trip too, and she did great. So maybe not all, but that 9 to 17 age group of children in the house. So we're excited about who these people are and even the production that we got. We are seeing a flavor of it here with this picture, and we'll show a teaser of that. Hopefully I set up my audio right. If not, I'll have to close out my share and restart it. Restart my sharing to get the audio to come through on the video. I might have missed a step there as I got started. So on-the-go families is one audience, exploring for adventure. So these are travelers that really are true outdoor enthusiasts. They're also typically self-outfitted. They like to explore though. They're not necessarily looking for extremes, but they're looking for new things that they can go out and just adventure. They're an age of 25 to 44 years of age, 75,000 to 100,000 household income, kind of a range that we're looking at. They may or may not have children, but that's not usually the core of how they're building out their trips is not necessarily around their kids, but they might. So this is going to be another fun audience that we're going to get to talk to this warm season. And then the third that we'll emphasize for today is our time for travel is what we're calling this group. This is your age 55 plus. I heard this on a previous call when we were talking about audiences and I liked it. These are not necessarily people who are old. So don't think of that. Think of these are people who they finally have time. They might have some disposable income that they can go out and adventure a little bit more. So we're excited to talk a little bit more to this audience too. So they have that 150,000 or higher household income. They're entering that life stage where they don't have kids at home and maybe they're even retiring or approaching retirement and getting a flavor for what's next in their life. So we also grabbed, while we were out doing production last summer for this campaign, we were also able to get some great multi-generational content that we're going to get to use. So this is actually talent that you're seeing on the screen that will be highlighted in some of our messaging. And what is our messaging? So as I stated earlier, we're going to continue with That's How You Montana for warm season 24. We are going through a brand exercise with our new agencies of record. So this may change in the future, and we're looking forward to providing you all with updates as that process unfolds and giving you timelines around that so you can be prepared and be a part of that process too. Hopefully by the time GovCon rolls around, we might even have a breakout session specific to this topic to get feedback and input from partners. So we're really looking forward to doing that. This year though, the messaging will change a little bit and it's more around how are we telling this story? Who's telling it? So Montanans are going to tell this story. You'll see that really the production that we were able to capture last warm season is Montanans. These are all this talent that you see on the screen right now. These are actually Montanans. Some of them you might even recognize in your communities that we were able to go out and capture some really great unique experiences with. So how did this go? Kind of a way to look at it is we called up some friends, we jumped in the car, and we went somewhere. Our campaign is based on 9 days and 2,000 miles of the one-of-a-kind people, stops, and stories that are Montanans alone. And then you can kind of see a little bit of how we mapped out this trip. And so back to facilitation, what you'll see from the warm season campaign on our web executions will be more ways to guide this trip, so that when we have that inspiration level visitor come to our website, they saw something, we're going to make sure that they land somewhere that's going to teach them more about these destinations that are a little less known, how to get there. They might even be able to tie them back to other destinations in the state and how they would build these into a bigger road trip. So that includes itineraries, different kind of guides for them along the way, calling out existing assets that your work has built out, like Trail to the Stars, the Pie Trail, the Burger Trail, and others that we know are specifically in these areas that we'll definitely want to be talking about and promoting as a part of this to make sure people are aware of those opportunities. So here's the part that I'm most nervous about. Please, I'm going to look at you, Alicia, for awareness. If I press play, tell me if you hear the sound. If not, I'm going to unshare and reshare.
That's good.
Sound?
No,
Okay.
Oh, wait.
That was the part I'm most nervous about, but if I just end my...
Sound. There was sound? Okay, yeah. So
There
if you
was sound?
back up, Mitch, sounds like we have sound.
I am excited. That helps a lot. Okay, these are short clips, but the sound is helpful. So here we go. I'll restart it.
We've already clocked like 800 miles. I'm like, I don't even know.
Mitch, it's glitching in and out, the sound.
It's picking up off your speaker, I think, so you might want to do the unshare, share.
Okay. All right, let's see. Stop share. If I go share, here, share sound. To I'm not going to be able to. Well, we'll get the videos out for the sake of time so you can review them. Can you still see my screen though?
Yes.
All right. Apologize for that. We thought we had that all worked out, but apparently we didn't. So the second production though that I wanted to highlight here for today was that family traveler. And so this is the Pickett family. We talked about them at the TAC meeting in October a little bit. And so I'm just going to jump to like the middle of the video if I could. Doesn't look like I can. We'll share these out somehow. We'll find a way to share these clips out because they're really good. Just to give you a flavor of what the campaign, the creative is going to look like this year. It's really exciting. And these are, again, these are Montanans telling the Montana story of how any of us would go recreate across the state. And that makes it real. It makes it touchable, tangible, and realistic for the people that we expect will actually visit these destinations. So that's going to be more of a drive market. And as you can expect, it will very much model around our winter campaign targeting that we talked about at the last TAC meeting as well, which is going to be more of a drive market audience rather than a fly market as we try to get people into these more eastern and lesser known rural areas of the state. Okay, so how does it work? So our campaign, as I was saying, is going to talk about facilitation, dispersion of travelers to rural and less visited areas in Montana. So blending real world experiences from eastern and rural with an integrated mix of paid, earned, and social, backed by itineraries, interactive maps, video, and expanded content on the website. So each tactic's going to be backed by campaign creative that's sharply focused on conversion too. We really are going to pay close attention to whatever dollars we spend on this campaign. We can measure what they did. And so that's going to be important as we go about the next steps in planning the campaign. And then our target date for go live for this campaign is April 1st. So hoping to get things back on a schedule that you've all had in the past, and maybe even down the road sooner, and even more proactive planning together earlier in the year as we do that. So that's our hope. We are working fast. Apologies for the video, but that's how it goes when we're sharing virtually. And so that's How You Montana. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you for those visuals and that explanation. Moving forward, congrats on you and all the others involved in getting through the RFPs and getting all of the agencies of record on board. I'll look for hands from the audience. Barb, Destination Missoula, go ahead.
Hi, Mitch. Thanks so much for that. And the campaign looks really great. One of the questions I do have, though, is, and I understand the focus on rural landowners in Montana because that's super important and we all know that. But I noticed that there's absolutely no rural areas in Western Montana at all. What is going to be done to help those rural areas as well?
Yeah, so I'm a Dillon guy, and so I have similar thoughts too. So just so you know, personally, I get it. I think you will see still everything that is existing on visitmt.com still existing there. It won't be necessarily demoted, still available as options. It's sort of a hard, nuanced question to answer. I know for winter it's different, where we have, unfortunately, the snow hasn't really come through for us. But this winter, we really did focus on rural Western Montana with smaller ski areas in that play. So winter is a little different conversation that we can have. And we're hoping to have a winter plan in front of you in June as well, at least a preview like today for that. So we can have more discussions about Western. But I think we're learning as we go. How do we meet what we've been asked to do through Senate Bill 540 and push people through that dispersal model to what naturally becomes Eastern Montana, but it's also rural. So we're trying to figure out ways to meet everybody's needs. There will still be opportunities, though, for us to build Western into these campaigns. For example, the corridors for these drive markets, when you look at what our geography is, what those maps actually look like, you're talking to Idaho, Washington, Utah, even Wyoming potentially could jump up through some of Western Montana to then come and access across in parts of Canada that we're trying to ask to come down and visit Montana. So there's a couple different ways to look at it. I know I'm not specifically showing you a map that shows where those are yet, Barb, but we're working on that.
Okay, great. Because it's not, winter's great, but not all of our rural areas have winter activities to do or really center on those. So
Right.
being able to give them some of that year-round love would help a lot too. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Thanks, Alicia. Mitch, my question is connected to the Great Falls itself and the fact that we haven't had stable growth with room demand or overnight visitation in our market. Will there be any effort at the state level outside of paid media, like with your owned media or some of the work that you do besides placing paid media, to help or showcase communities like Great Falls, or even, as a whole, the big 7+ whitefish that aren't part of that kind of strategy?
Yeah, our social channels, as you're probably aware, have a very large audience and large reach, and will continue to be spread pretty evenly across the state. They'll definitely, our focus with social, and I would add in earned media, can have some impact here too. And so Nicole Gonzalez is leading that out with our team, and for our team. And so I think we'll still talk broadly using those channels. They'll tie back to the campaign, which will be not the big seven, but it'll all sort of be inclusive, because as we tell the story of Montana, it's not just rural and eastern. We recognize that. So those non-paid channels will still be deployed more broadly than what paid will be.
Thank you.
Who else has a question? I'm sure there's more questions in the audience. Mitch, we don't have any more. Thank you so much. And thank you also for addressing the rural areas, how you're going to address those in, you know, the regions that have the bigger draws, but there's a lot of more rural areas that don't see the same amount of traffic. So thank you, Mitch. And it's always great to look forward. And I thank you for bringing that to us and to chat about. We look forward to seeing updates in June. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Rochelle with Business MT and a tribal tourism update. Rochelle, it's good to see you.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. I want to thank Haley and Nathan for giving you a little preview of my update today. So I'll be very short and leave a little time for any additional questions you may have had about my 2024-25 budget priorities as a result of 540. And also just to emphasize that in addition to my budget and activities, tribal tourism is also supported by the Marcoms team and the warm season and assets that we'll be planning for in the future, as well as the pilot community grants that will be going through Destination MT and Office of Tourism. So I think we're averaging about 3.25 million in funding for tribal tourism for 24 and 25, not including investments in advertising and marketing. So pretty exciting to have tribal tourism be elevated and getting you know, more focus and investments. In the chat, I shared with you a link to the Big Sky Film Festival, those production assistant training scholarships. So far, we've administered 19. We've got 13 certified PAs so far, and they worked on this film that was selected for the film festival. It'll be showing at 2 p.m. in Missoula on February 20th. And so the link to that film is there in the chat. So I'll be quick. Anybody have any additional questions or anything from the activities that are scheduled that you have any questions about?
Rochelle, I'm not seeing any hands up, and I think we got a good update earlier. What would be helpful from the TAC or DMOs to help you execute your plans? Is there anything you could use from us that would be helpful for you?
Yes. So as a part of my budget activities, I need to host 4 outreach meetings with 4 of the tribal nations that I'm hoping to accomplish between the end of April and early June, before everything really starts to kick up high season wise. And so be looking for an invitation for you to come and join us at your nearest regional tribal nation for those forums and those discussions on the ground with the tribal communities. So I don't have a schedule at this point yet, just it's tentative for late April to early May. Hopefully we can get 4 of them accomplished, and then we'll resume in the fall before the snow starts falling again. And we'll do 4 more. So I'll be bringing all of you to the table. I have funding to help compensate you for your accommodations and your travel reimbursements in order to not have that cut into your operating budgets. And it's ways for us to try to collaborate one-on-one with each tribal nation and to tailor our marketing efforts towards what they would like us to promote. And that's a conversation that's just best to have at the local level with tribal government and community partners.
Wonderful. That's a lot of work, but we're very grateful for you and these updates. It's really great to see what's going on, and it's very exciting. And thank you again for involving Haley and Nathan in your meeting invites and all of those things. We really appreciate that partnership and collaboration.
Great. And also just a reminder that on February 21st is the next STED meeting. And we continue to want to encourage strengthening the relationship between the TAC and the STED. And so you can always go, let me see if I can get that link up, or I'll have it emailed out. I'll ask Alex to send it out to everybody so that you might be able to join us virtually. Unless you're in Helena, we'll be at the Leah Pocha Clinic in their conference room, the Helena Indian Health Alliance. And again, that is going to be 9 a.m. on February 21st in Helena.
Great. Thank you, Rochelle.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. I'm not seeing any hands up, so we'll go ahead and move on to just our last thing on the agenda is we will be and would love to see all of the TAC members and the April Governor's Conference on Tourism. So please look for emails. If you haven't registered, please reach out to me and I will get you in touch with Alex. Or you probably have Alex's info to get your hotel room and your registration information. So we book those ourselves this year. So if you haven't yet, please do that. So we see you at the Governor's Conference on Tourism. Our next full TAC meeting will be in person, June 4th and 5th in Billings. The location is to be announced, but please plan to be in Billings in June, and that's where we take action on the marketing plans, the DMO plans. So we're excited to see there. The next one will be October 8th and 9th in a TBA location, and then virtual a year from now. So are there any questions before I move to adjourn our February TAC meeting? Overwhelmingly no. There's no one that has any more questions or concerns. They want to get to lunch. So do I have a motion to adjourn the February TAC meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Joan. Do I have a second?
This is Saber, I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? I don't think we have anybody who abstained, so thank you all for your time and attention and your reports. This meeting is adjourned. See you in the Governor's Conference.
Alicia.
Well done, Alex.
Well, Alicia,